Welcome to this week's episode of Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters, the podcast where we chart the cinematic legacy of the classic monsters. I'm John Campbell. With me, as always, Brendan Jones.
John Campbell and listeners, how are you? I am chewing some chewing gum.
You know, it's not coming through, so that's good. We're not getting the
good
on the mic, so that's good.
But it's putting me in a childlike frame of mind.
Oh, yeah. For this, a rare, true kids movie.
This is a kids movie, but it's a kids movie with a weird Shane Black edge.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, we're talking about 1987's The Monster Squad.
Mm-hmm.
This is a movie that was very big in my childhood. I loved this movie as a kid.
And yet it was a failure.
It's one of those things where I never knew it as anything other than this classic and going like, they should have made more Monster Squad movies.
Do you have to do that voice when you...
That was me as a kid, I guess.
This came out the year I graduated high school, and I went to see it in the theater, so I am one of the ones that tried to get its money back.
Yeah.
And I remember liking it. Even then, it's one where I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, oh, I had problems. But still...
It's a hard movie to dislike. You know what I mean? Like, it's very charming.
Yes.
That's I think it skates by on any other failings it has. I think it skates by on sheer likability and like it's very entertaining.
It is, and it brushes up against and this could be one of its failings, but it brushes up against a lot of familiar things from that era that you're like going, right, they really did look at the Goonies template. They really did look at the template of E.T. They were just beats where you're like going, right, they're trying to do an Amblin film, and it almost works. It doesn't quite grab that brass ring, but it gets pretty close. And, you know, for a monster fan, there's a lot there to love.
That's the thing. I think the thing that really got me about it watching this, and I've seen this movie several times. So I'm watching it last night going, I think I just watched it back in October because this is one I'll put on come Halloween season as well. We were talking about that with Lost Boys. I go back to Monster Squad a lot. So I'm watching it last night for the show with a different eye than I normally do, which is totally colored by nostalgia. But I was watching it going like, is this the best Monster Rally movie of the Universal Monsters? I think it might be.
Well, this is what I'll say. This is the
purest. Monsters are pretty well represented here.
I will say this is the purest Monster Rally.
Yeah.
I will say that sadly, it works as a great Monster Rally for kids because again, logic and which it's not a failing. I mean, they were aiming this at a certain age group, but you don't get much characterization or plot or motivation other than let's get that Dracula wants to get that gem. He wants to bring all evil to overtake all of good. And that's it for motivation.
It's very comic booky in that sense, like the simplicity of an old comic book.
Yeah, it's let's get the band together, and the Mummy has no backstory, name, or presence. The Wolfman is drawn in probably just through magic, but he doesn't know Dracula, but he becomes a pawn. The Frankenstein monster is the only one that Dracula brings in, like he's my guy. And then the Gill Man, you're like, well, even though it's awesome that he's there, because I love seeing them all stand there. They look great.
I mean, when you assemble the Avengers of monsters, I'm never not going to be excited, you know, like.
No, and they do look great. Like, I will say that the makeup for the Wolfman is a little stiff. At the same time, it's much better than a lot of what we've seen.
And it's a good design of Wolfman, like, once again, in a comic book way. It's a good-looking Wolfman, even if
and they've got a really good-looking mummy.
Great-looking mummy, yeah.
Great-looking Gill Man, because they couldn't get the exact replica.
No, because it's not Universal, so they purposely had to avoid infringing on copyright.
But when we say comic book, that's never meant as an insult on the show, really.
Not on here. The two of us would never use that disparagingly.
So this looks like a comic book amalgam of classic monsters where you're like going, they're very on model,
Yes.
shifted slightly for legal purposes.
Because they have to be, right? The movie's so... It is a kid's movie, so it has to just be like Dracula, Frankenstein, Mummy, Wolfman. Like, you just need to be boom, boom, boom. I got him instantly. I know all I need just by looking at him.
Dracula doesn't need to be modernized here. He is walking around in full 19th century formal wear. He's big collared cape.
I wish Duncan Regehr had gotten to do more as Dracula. I really, really like him as Dracula in this. And he's...
Agreed.
He's doing, while he doesn't get the screen time and the character setup of some of the other ones, he does do stuff in this that I've been waiting all the movies to see Dracula do.
Well, I mean,
you get,
look,
it's
there is something
super villain Dracula in this, and it's great.
And there is nothing more primal for me that goes straight to the child in me than seeing Frankenstein's monster choking Dracula, like in a combat thing where they're fighting each other. Do I need that in my life? Every day of my life I need to see that, and it's awesome. Same with a Wolfman hopping out of it's like, one thing I do want the smart version of this. I want the adult version of this. At the same time, as a kid, this would have blown my mind. Unfortunately, I was already a teenager and I was already snarky.
It very much blew my mind as a kid. And the thing I was going to say about, though, the thing that got me, and the reason I liked it more than, even though it's not as good of a movie as like the Goonies, but the reason I went back to it some more was not only the monsters, but this was a PG-13.
That's why I said a Shane Black edge. He co-wrote this.
Yeah.
And there are parts where you're like going, what did you think your audience was?
Yeah.
Because this is a kid's movie on the whole. And then you'll get these weird... you've got the junior high student peeking at the high school student undressing, and you're like, oh, okay.
Oh, when I was a kid, Rudy was about the coolest character cinema had ever seen.
Even though Rudy is a junior high student in 1987 dressing like the Fonz.
Yeah,
what is this?
That's where you're definitely showing the age of the writers of the idea of their idea of a cool character.
His hair is contemporary 80s. It is sort of styled and up and that kind of thing. But for some reason, he's in a black leather jacket like he is a 1950s greaser, and you're like, I don't quite get what they're thinking there.
I'm looking up,
but again,
this is maybe something that could be due for a remake.
I agree, and here's one of the main problems that I have with the movie, and it's not on them. These are fine kid actors.
Yeah.
They're fine, and actually they have some very good chemistry, scenes together. You believe them as friends, but this movie you needed your Haim or your Feldman. These are people that didn't go on to big careers. They worked, all of them.
Yeah.
But they're just not quite good enough, really, to pull off. You just don't glom onto them. They are maybe more relatable because they are just sort of middle of the road kids. The one that stands out actually is the little girl who is just freaking adorable.
Phoebe the Phoebe.
Yeah. So she's a good young actress where it's like, yeah, that's perfect casting. And everyone else is okay. Like the bigger names are like Jason Hervey is one of the tough kids, and he has like 4 lines.
Well, I was
going to
say actually, it's the actors playing the monsters and the adults are actually pretty solid. Like they're all pretty.
Oh, sure.
That's the thing that's interesting is they did get
Noonan.
You got Noonan. You got Regehr. You got John Grease.
Yeah, John Grease.
Stephen Mocht. Mary Ellen Trainor. These are all like solid 80s actors.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think
Stan
that
Law is the other detective.
Yeah, good.
When this movie actually has deaths, it really kind of hits because you're like, oh,
and
wow.
There's stuff in it. I mean, I think a lot of this does come from the Shane Black. Is not only the stuff you were talking about, but like the action. Like these kids, like Fat Kid, fucking blows the Gill Man away.
Right up till the end, I'm sitting there going, the only one of these, like the lead kid is is the leader kid is the one that has all the knowledge, and he's putting together a plan. But really, at the end, you're like going, "Oh, it's a junior high kid. It's Fonzie who's really doing all the damage."
Rudy takes out two brides of Dracula, kills the Wolfman. Like
right. But then you do get Fat Kid. Oh man, I mean, his name is Horace, but even his friends call him Fat Kid. We need to talk about that. But
that
Fat Kid does get to blow away the Gill Man, and you're like, oh, great. And then of course, everyone kind of gets their shots in, but I'm sitting there going, Rudy's the dude, man. He's taking them all down.
He takes out the mummy too.
Yep.
Rudy is a real deal monster hunter. Like
he really is. But he doesn't get the thumbs up from Van Helsing at the end.
No. But that kind of makes sense. Van Helsing was the knowledge guy too, really.
It's true. Though this is the Van Helsing we get at the beginning of the movie is kind of a perfect world.
I love
he's older, intellectual dude, but he's also kind of Peter Cushing, man of action Van Helsing.
Well, because it's all what we're talking about. Everyone here kind of has to be the platonic ideal of these iconic characters, because they're not.
Sure.
We're only getting the. I mean, this movie clocks out without credits at 75 minutes.
I know, and actually, like I said to you, I was like, it needed to go a little longer, just because I do feel that we get cheated of some character work that would have helped. Because it seems like a sketch of a movie. It doesn't feel fully fleshed out. Dracula, I could have heard him talk.
Yeah.
I could have heard him talk a lot more. I could have had monologues and whatever. I could have had scenes of him, though the scene of him facing off against the parents is great.
Yes.
But I was like, I could have dealt with him talking to the kids other than calling the little girl a bitch. My God, I forgot about that.
Oh, that's, come on, man. I am here for it.
Well,
Dracula calls a little girl a bitch. Evil, I love it.
I was like, wow, I forgot. I was like, you guys really weren't sure who was going to come see your movie, were you? It's like, let's take a Goosebumps book and put a half topless chick in it and some cuss words and some gore.
I do have a list here of additional deleted scenes not included in any version other than the one that aired on TNT.
Oh, nice.
Because I do think some of what we're talking about is not Decker and Black as much as it is maybe some studio interference. There were some budget cuts, and
you have to say Black and Decker. You can't say Decker and Black. Black and Decker is
Black
too
and
good.
Decker, man. Still working together to this day too. I like.
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
They and actually
they
talk
were
about studio
film school buddies.
Talk about studio influence. Fred Decker will let you know how much they butchered their Predator movie, but so here these are the 6 scenes included in the TNT version. In the opening scene immediately following the opening title, one of Van Helsing's men fights off one of the vampire women and accidentally pulls the stake out of Dracula's chest, resurrecting the Count. That's pretty cool.
Okay.
An extended comedy routine between the two.
So that means the Count literally sat there for a century just waiting for this moment where the planets aligned, basically?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
An extended comedy routine between the two pilots flying Frankenstein's coffin. I think we're better off without that. There's enough of them in the movie.
There's enough. They're fine, and we didn't need to spend that much time with them.
A scene between Phoebe and her mother in the kitchen. The mother tells Phoebe to go watch her favorite TV show, but Phoebe says her PTA won't let her on the grounds it contains too much sex, which leads the mother to retort under her breath, "We could use a little sex in this house." Oh, that's not bad.
Is that appropriate between a mom and her 5-year-old daughter?
An extended scene where the boys are discussing whether or not they know what a virgin is, leading them to ask Rudy if he knows any. Oh, I like the way it just cuts to them asking Rudy if he knows any, though. That is funny.
Yeah, it is good.
When the boys and Frankenstein go to the mansion to retrieve the amulet, there's an additional scene showing them approaching the house where Horace expresses his fear. All these things seem mostly cuttable.
Filler. Yeah.
And this is the one beat I would have expected that I'm not surprised to hear, which is a scene of Rudy putting his arm around Patrick's sister to her disgust as they observe the carnage following the movie's finale. I did expect that beat.
But it was there. In the version I saw, it's there.
Is it? Where he, after they do everything, he's like, hey.
He puts his arm around her and she just goes...
Oh,
It was in the version that I watched last night.
Oh, okay. I don't remember if it was in the one I don't know.
And when we say scene, it is literally seconds, but they're all standing on the steps of the church at the end, and the army's there and all that nonsense. And Rudy he puts his arm around her, and she just goes, yeah.
I might have missed that then, but I mean, and I don't know. I'm going on that. Let's do.
I rented it off of Amazon, and so it's in the rental version.
Okay, I have the Blu-ray version.
Also, the full frontal scene was restored. But Sally, when I say full frontal, Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going as well. Let's talk about this poster, because this poster is very 80s and pretty awesome.
Very 80s, very awesome. It reminds me of the Fright Night poster, mainly because the head's in the sky, kind of brightly blue lit.
Well, it's interesting. I feel like
cloud vampire head.
I feel like this is combining a lot of the posters we've seen of the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Because Rudy's looking very Jason Patric and Lost Boys on this poster with his bow and arrow, which looks cool as hell. All the kids have their monster hunting shit, and they're sitting on the hood of the hearse, Dracula's hearse. I do love Dracula's hearse, by the way. Where are the toys? I guess the movie would have had to have been successful, but
yeah,
this movie has definitely gained a cult following. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody like NECA picked up some figure rights, because I would love to have some of these monster designs as figures, actually.
Agreed.
And then we get in the night sky and the clouds, beneath or in front of the full moon. We get the
Mount Rushmore of monsters.
Oh man, I just want that as a poster. Actually, I don't need the kids. I just need like a lengthwise, banner of these monsters. Because you got, of course, Dracula in the middle. As a kid, I did always think, well, Dracula is their leader.
Dracula's the only one that seems to have an operating mind.
It did always seem that way when I watched the Universal Monsters. I'm like, well, I guess Dracula's in charge. You got him. You got going to the left there. You've got the mummy, the Frankenstein monster, and then on the right, you've got the werewolf and I was surprised they were able to call him Wolfman, but I guess you can't copyright people saying stuff.
That's true.
Because of course we know that the Wolfman is a property of Universal.
TM, absolutely. And then you get a Gillman, which is they call him just like a swamp creature. Yeah. They can't call him a Gillman.
And he's quite a bit more fish-like in this design than he is.
What I like is it is again. All the credit goes to Stan Winston. These are really good designs, and you can make a cheap-looking Gillman, but he didn't do that. What he did was, it is so recognizably the Gillman, but then he did alter it to look, I'm not going to say cooler, because that original Gillman design is the coolest.
It's iconic.
Of all time. But this is great. This has got some of it. The head piece is more fish-like, but also reminds you a lot of the Predator head. And the gills on this thing are even more outrageous.
Same year Predator comes out.
Yeah.
Also written by Shane Black, although not credited.
Right. But it's a great design. So the poster looks fine, and then you've got the tagline, which is also a callback to another movie they paid close attention to.
You know who to call when you have ghosts, but who do you call when you have monsters? The Monster Squad.
Yeah. And I would have been fine with just that and not have that god-awful song over the credits, which is their attempt to have like a Ghostbusters theme.
It's very 80s rap. It does have, because Dracula and he's running around, he's looking for an amulet.
It's very, and I don't know who did it, so I am colorblind on this, but it sounds like white guy rap of the early 80s. And it is sort of like, the Monster Squad, and they're here to say, Dracula ain't got no place in the PA, or whatever. I don't, or the CA.
Yeah.
I'm never sure where this is supposed to take place either.
No, it's Anytown, USA, right? And we've,
it's a suburb, clearly.
Yeah.
It's also the Warner Brothers backlot, because little church, I used to also have lunch breaks on the
We've seen a lot of movies shot on the Warner Brothers backlot on this series, particularly in the 80s, I feel like here.
That little neighborhood is also Stars Hollow. I mean, where the ending took place is the same backlot.
Yes, it is. It's that. Well,
It's also where
it's
the Music Man. It is a River City, Iowa from
it
Music
is.
Man. It's all of it.
I'm always just so charmed to see that because I've seen it in so many movies and TV shows that I'm like, oh, I know this little like town square.
Right.
I know it.
Same movie.
Yeah, shot on location in beautiful Burbank, California.
Yeah, but so it's clearly a suburb, and yet it seems to have big city elements, especially kind of the police department, and then it also has a fucking swamp.
Yeah. It has everything needed for a monster movie, basically.
Yep.
Whatever you need, it's here.
And somehow Van Helsing got there.
Van Helsing, yeah.
He went all the way to America.
Who is this guy who plays
possibly all the way to the West Coast, which, if he's coming in the late 1880s, that's not even part of the Union yet. And then in an old house, he somehow gets that amulet buried. What?
Jack Gwillem is the guy who plays Van Helsing in this.
Yeah, for a few minutes.
Who's in a bunch of stuff, but he really brings a lot to it. Is what I like. You don't see.
He does,
but
he does. You buy his desperation in that scene.
Also, I don't know if you saw this on the trivia at all, Brendan. They do. Fred Decker talks about the original opening that he and Shane Black have written.
Yeah,
that is much.
It's absolutely batshit insane.
But also just feels like too. I mean, because there's no question. Like the Monster Squad kids are obviously Fred Decker and Shane Black, right? It's just a couple. There's a couple of nerds writing a nerd movie, is what this is. But so the idea about like, oh, and then Van Helsing shows up with zeppelins and hundreds of guys at Dracula's castle, and I do like.
I'm glad it was this because if it was supposed to be 100 years ago, I'm sorry, attack zeppelins in 1880.
I don't know. I mean, in the comic book logic of it, but I like that Decker stated the sequence would have cost more than the entire final budget of the film.
Yeah, they're talking about hundreds of vampire horsemen and Van Helsing in a freaking attack zeppelin. I'm like, yeah, I think they made the wise choice.
This is
instead to have just it all happen in Castle Dracula, and
this is a $12 million movie. It looks pretty good, for the most part.
It does.
The final gross 3.7 though.
I know that hurts.
That does hurt.
Because all right, I will fully say before we even get to the end, the movie deserved to do better. It's not a classic. It deserves a cult following, but at the same time, I don't quite know, other than things that really no one else would be critically thinking, why this wasn't bigger.
Yeah.
I just think era, when it got released, what it was up against, all kinds of things like that. Who knows?
Well, because in my mind, it is like a classic of the 1980s. But that's just because once again, by the time I got to it, it was already over. Like it had already come and gone, and it was just a movie. And I'm like, well, it was great.
Well, John, I can tell you there were, other than a few ads on the back covers of some comics.
Oh yeah.
And maybe a commercial or two. There were no Burger King tie-ins that I can remember.
Yeah.
There was not a big Monster Squad push. I think the studio must have just dropped it.
Well, let's see.
Like, okay, it's done. It looks all right.
We've done this before,
there.
And this is something I will occasionally do. This movie came out August 14th, 1987. Let's see.
At the end of summer.
Let's see what else you could have gone to. You did go to this movie.
I did.
But one could have also gone to, opening the same weekend, the of course the who could forget Can't Buy Me Love.
We talked
Patrick
about that
Dempsey
didn't we?
in Can't Buy Me Love.
Yeah.
Also, you could have seen the same weekend as well, Kevin Costner in No Way Out, which is pretty good. I like that movie.
I saw that in the theaters.
I like that movie.
I remember thinking that was a very grown-up film to be watching.
Sure, yeah, it is. The week before, you had, I don't know if anyone was going to this, the Dolph Lundgren Masters of the Universe from Canon Films.
Again, they got my money.
Oh, sure, yeah. Also that weekend before, one I enjoy quite a bit, which is the Richard Dreyfuss Emilio Estevez vehicle Stakeout.
God, I guess I only went to go see movies. So, yep, saw that one in the theater as well.
Stakeout's very fun and very of its era.
Here's why I think I was doing all this. I had graduated high school,
yeah,
but was not I was too late to get into any schools for the fall semester.
Mm.
So there was a gap there from like May of 87 until January of 88 where I was not in college yet. So it was a chunk where I got a job at a movie theater and just went to go see movies all the time.
Also, I've never seen this movie, but also opening the same weekend as Monster Squad is something called Disorderlies
I did not see that.
with Ralph Bellamy.
Ralph Bellamy and the Fat Boys, ladies and gentlemen. The Fat Boys.
It was the Fat Boys starring vehicle.
It was. And, I mean, they were funny guys.
Sure, but I'm not sure
but,
they needed a movie.
And also, not something that's like a weird 80s update of like a Three Stooges thing, which is what they were doing.
Oh, God. And then it's second weekend, because this is August 14th, the 21st. Everything gets blown away by Dirty Dancing, right?
Ha! The one I did not see in the
Yeah.
theater because I did not care.
But that was huge.
It was huge. That was one
Yeah.
of the biggest movies of that year.
Yeah.
It took home Oscars. Come on, Dirty Dancing.
I don't love it. I'm sorry. It's one of those. I love
You
Swayze.
didn't have the time of your life.
No, I love Swayze, but once again, I love Swayze in Roadhouse and Red Dawn and Point
So what
Break.
you're saying is this would have been a perfect film, Dirty Dancing, if it had had a few more throat rips.
I like Swayze when he was kicking ass.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, and Point Break, obviously the masterpiece that is Point Break. All right.
It is a garbage movie that's a lot of fun to watch.
I love Point Break, man. I've seen that so many times. All right, let's get into this movie. You start with a scrolling prologue. You always know you're in for a good time. Very 80s to me. Very 80s fantasy movie or something like that when it starts with 100 years ago,
I love this one.
Yeah. It
since
sets the
you've
tone
watched-
really
you
well for
watch
this movie.
Every Halloween, and I haven't seen this in years,
Mm-hmm.
so I'd forgotten a lot. And then I was like, okay, so it's like 100 years ago, Van Helsing and his cohorts attempted to thwart Dracula and the forces of evil. And then as a tagline underneath it just goes, they blew it.
It sets the tone for the movie
great.
so well, right?
It does.
It's all very formal, fighting the forces of
Hyper
evil.
serious, and then there's the joke.
They blew it. Yeah, it's great.
And we're looking during this when the scene comes up. We are in the crypt of Castle Dracula.
Yeah.
And what's the first thing we see, John?
The coffin, you mean, that opens with the hand coming out?
Before the coffin, we see a couple of armadillos.
Yes, yes,
in all
you do.
of horror film,
You
have
do.
you seen
1931.
armadillos
That's right.
in Transylvania?
That's
It's only in the 1931 Dracula, and I loved that. I was like, that is a great touch. That is only for the nerds amongst us.
Because nerds are making this movie. We didn't talk.
Right.
I mean, Fred Decker. This is one of two movies he directed in this era. The other one being Night of the Creeps.
Night of the Creeps,
which also has a very, throwback horror vibe to it.
it's a fun one.
I
It's a
really
fun
enjoy Night of the Creeps as well. I really
and
like
it's
Fred
definitely not
Decker.
for kids.
No,
but
no,
it's
no.
definitely a horror film nerd movie as well.
But he kind of got these two, and then that was 86. This is 87. Then it's like, oh, neither one of those did super well. I think Night of the Creeps did well enough to get him this, but then it's 1993's RoboCop 3 that ends his directing career.
Yeah.
And
Though there are some people that like that better than RoboCop 2.
I wouldn't say that. I don't think it's as.
No,
I
wouldn't
will say
either.
I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be. I think there is some good stuff in there, but it is
But
the
it is
worst
a
of the Robo.
PG-13 RoboCop.
That's
movie.
a huge problem. Not having Peter Weller, huge problem. Right. There's a lot of problems with it. Let me say this. I don't think it's bad enough that never give Fred Decker another movie though.
No.
And
it is. I mean, and as we've mentioned, we keep mentioning Shane Black.
Yeah.
They were friends.
Shane Black, by the way, is in RoboCop 3. He has a cameo as one of the Detroit cops in it.
Nice. And of course, he was in Predator as well. Mm-hmm. Shane Black is, of course, of this pair of friends, the one who went on to greater fame.
Shane Black.
I love that.
To me, Shane Black is and look, say what you will. The other, criticize whatever. I understand to each their own on this stuff, but to me, Shane Black is basically a god. I adore the man and his work. I love his movies. The only movie of his I don't like is that Predator movie that got butchered by the studios, but every other film he wrote
like
and
a
or
lot
directed.
of Shane Black's movies, and I certainly think we walk in similar ground as to what we like. We certainly do share touchstones. But it just killed me to read in the trivia. It's like while this was being made, while Monster Squad is at the center of Decker and Black and Decker's lives, basically Lethal Weapon is just about to be picked up.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like, oof. To be Fred Decker going like, oh no, that's great, Shane. No, I'm really happy for you. Great.
Yeah.
Lethal Weapon, which is about to be one of the biggest things ever, and then Shane Black will continue to crank out, very big movies.
I mean,
and he'll also disappear after a while and then come back.
Yeah. I was just literally I had a 2-night Shane Black double feature here because the night before I was watching The Last Boy Scout.
There you go.
Before this, which I
one
enjoy.
of the best openings of a movie, but I can't say the movie works for me all that well. But I love that opening.
Shane Black he hits me right where I live in that noir, hard boiled, snarky dialogue, lots of violence.
I was gonna say Portland.
Yeah, he does that.
He hits
too.
you where you live.
Yeah. I'm very excited to see what he's going to do with the Parker novels now that he's adapting.
I think that's a perfect fit. I hope that turns out well. I am still sad that for some reason his Doc Savage remains in limbo, and I am
Again, you talk about what a nerd he is. That's his great passion project. Is can I make Doc Savage?
You don't understand. He's the man of bronze. Okay.
Yeah. No, I love it. I mean, I want that so bad, and he's been banning. I think Dwayne Johnson's still attached.
At this point, I don't want him to be. He's too old. Yeah, I said
I think he'd be fine. He's got the look for it.
He's 63 years old.
The man hasn't let himself go by any stretch of the imagination.
He's going to be the oldest Black Adam we've ever seen on screen.
I'm kind of excited for Black Adam.
I am tentatively excited.
Yeah.
I am always skeptical of the DC products because they have been not good.
We've talked about this. So, I do like the hand sliding out of the coffin with the spiders. Ooh,
yep.
Very creepy, very like EC Comics kind of,
I do like that this is like a pan. So it's like starting with armadillos, then a coffin where a hand comes out and tarantulas. But that's not Dracula. It's just one of the brides, and we're already moving.
Well, because we're moving to the very ornate coffin. I do like that we see these kind of white, standard coffins. Then we get to this black one with the crest on it.
Lacquered.
That's where the
big D, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
man. But then the camera also pans up because no one's coming out of that coffin because he's already hanging above it as a freaking bat.
Love it, man. That's how you want to be introduced to Dracula.
These bat effects are pretty good.
I think these are the best bat transformation effects we've seen yet.
Yeah. Well, they also do a smart thing when we get a full bat to Dracula transformation of doing these quick cuts where you're not really seeing too much of the transition.
Right.
It's just they've done makeup for various transitions. So half hand, half wing, pretty sweet. Then a close up of the hand where now it's just webbed and much more human. It's like all these little things are going great.
I love later when he's
just standing there.
When he's caught between after he gets shot as the bat and he's in mid transformation but he's wounded. That's good.
Yeah, I'm confused about that because why was he affected? That wasn't a silver bullet.
My guess is it's just force versus mass of an object. Like,
who knows?
He's small, the bullet hits him harder.
I'm like, Drac, what's your problem?
I think I took it that he's stunned more than he's actively injured. This is where we have Van Helsing with some villagers, not hundreds of guys, but some angry villagers with him.
When they say in the scroll, like, with the help of some freedom fighters, you're like, what? I mean, possibly a couple of them are like Jonathan Harker or somebody, but we don't know. They have no dialogue.
No.
They just run in, and there is a young peasant girl with them.
Yes. And he's like,
I need to talk about the peasant girl, and we will in a
read.
second.
You must read what is written.
Yeah, everything is hyped up. This is an action scene, so
I love the way
there's
this movie just kicks off.
there's this weird artifact stone thing that clearly has a laser behind it. And Van Helsing is urging this young girl to open a scroll and read this spell, which is in German. And while she's doing it, Dracula and his minions, including corpses rising up out of the floor in a very Ghostbusters way, as in every time the stone floor would buckle, I'm like, yeah, like the street in New York out in front of the hotel. And then you have the skeletons come out. So it's a fight scene with the girl trying to recite and she successfully does it. And it opens a portal.
Yeah. The drags Dracula and drags everybody. I like Dracula and Van Helsing fighting as they go into the port,
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff.
And a lot of just stuff goes in there.
Yep.
And so does the poor young girl.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. At the end of the movie, and I remember this from watching it in the theater in 1987, what I expected at the end, of course, we get, spoiler alert, Van Helsing shows up for a brief moment to drag Dracula back into limbo and give the thumbs up, and I love that.
Yeah.
But I kept expecting, hey, maybe the innocents that had been dragged into limbo in the earlier fight would get spit out.
Nope,
I kept going, you mean that poor girl who was an innocent, was a good person, has been damned to limbo?
Collateral damage against the forces in the battle of the forces against evil.
In my brain, even as a teenager watching, I was like going, it would have been so cool to have the girl from 1880 whatever get spit back out in the modern day, and then what's his name? Rudy goes over and throws his coat over her
that'd be kind of cool. That'd be nice.
It would be a redemption thing for this poor girl because she was a hero and it's not her fault and she ended up in limbo.
Well, I like that idea.
But this movie is like, if you're dead, you're fucked. Hey, this is a horror movie. Sorry.
Welcome to Shane Black, man. The guy's movies are harsh.
They're harsh. That girl is just in limbo. She doesn't even get to give a thumbs up.
In fact, reading about The Last Boy Scout, that movie changed quite a bit from the much darker and more violent Shane Black script, as did, of course, very famously, he stormed off of Lethal Weapon 2 because he insisted that Mel Gibson should die at the end of it.
He wanted a 2 and done, huh?
Yeah, that was his thing. And I have heard him say now, because keep in mind, he's very young during this period, He's in like his early 20s. He's fresh out of film school when he's getting all this stuff. I have heard him now go, yeah, that was a bad idea. It shouldn't have been. Riggs shouldn't have died. That was just me trying to be edgy and cool and young, and it's noir, and he's got to fucking die at the end. And he goes, now in my 50s, I would go, yeah, I see that would be a bad call.
I agree, though. There are some series that just keep going long after it should have ended. But
I'm not talking about from a financial standpoint, but that to me isn't, and I love the Lethal Weapon films, but that is inherently a story of a guy accepting that he is able to move on and live again. So killing him kind of, to me, defeats the arc of his character.
Right. It is a highly cynical thing to do.
Yeah. Anyway, back to this movie. When we get to the father in this movie, though, that's where we get some real Shane Black shit in here. I mean, my God.
Oh, of course.
He's a full-on Shane Black character. I do love the corpses rising from the ground here, though, man. Oh, that's cool. When the ground is shifting and these skeletons are grabbing people.
Yeah.
It's very Evil Dead. Like this whole sequence, I like if you don't want to watch the rest of this movie after this, I don't want to know you.
I just heard a bunch of radios click off, which is really weird since this isn't playing on any radio.
Yeah, I know. That's the strangest thing. There's some of our fans do say that we just sound better when they play us through their radio, though.
Yeah, that's true.
We just bring
something warmer through that cathode or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, they have one of the giant ones too, like people would gather around in the 30s.
Yeah, for warmth.
Yeah. So we go from that to modern day, and we meet sort of the two ringleaders of the Monster Squad, and that is Sean and Patrick.
Yes.
Good Irish boy names.
Absolutely.
But they are in trouble, and oh boy, immediately I am relating to these kids, right? They are not paying attention in class because they are too busy drawing monsters.
They're too busy drawing monsters, and the principal is not. I mean, he is a stereotypical principal, but he's trying to not be a bad dude. So he's trying to relate to them.
I really enjoy this principal performance.
He's like, "Hey, man, I loved monsters when I was a kid too, but you know what? I started thinking that real life is cool. And you know what's real? Science is cool, man."
In fact,
he's like, "I could talk monsters with you all day, but the thing is, they're fake."
Yeah, it's so fun, and he ends with this double thumbs up that's just so lame.
Yeah, he's trying to be cool, but he's such a freaking nerd, and the kids are like, "Yeah, we got nothing out of that."
It's very funny.
They leave. Did they get in trouble? Really? They just got a talking to. They leave, and then it's like, then as they walk down, okay, we also have to talk about how problematic specifically this first 5 minutes are.
Sure.
I'm not saying it's not unrealistic, because I'm remembering my junior high and high school years, and especially at that time, we said certain words casually,
just tossed about. Yes, this is definitely
that are horrible.
This is definitely an era thing that I'm not excusing it, but it at the time this would not have been shocking to hear these words.
No,
especially coming out of young characters.
Elicited chuckles or laughs, because the two kids, I think they are speculating when they walk out, like, he's such a dweeb. It's like, do you think he's a H word? They use the abbreviated of homosexual.
Yep.
and
we get harsher than that throughout this movie.
And then, well, within the next sentence, I think is like, well, I don't know. It's like, well, you're saying that the science teacher's a cat lady, and maybe the principal's an F word. Then we get the harsher of that, and then, I mean, this is just them. They're not being hateful. These are just words they're banding about, and they're laughing.
It's unfortunate. And these are probably realistic dialogue for kids of this age in this era.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's very on point. It's not like it's not Shane Black trying to be edgy. He's like, no, that's just kid dialogue, and sadly true.
Well, I'll say that harsh F word gets tossed around a bit in Last Boy Scout as well.
Oh yeah, of course.
91. We're not too much later, you know.
But then we're in the parking lot out in front of the school, and then one of the third main monster squatters, who is named Horace. Mm-hmm. He has a lisp.
Yeah.
He is overweight, and not just his enemies, but also his friends call him Fat Kid.
Yeah.
That's what they call him.
Oh, Horace.
His name is Fat Kid.
Oh, Horace. I really feel for Horace in this movie, man. I really do.
You get two bullies walking up to him, and they are played by actors that go on to have long careers.
Iconic TV bully, really.
Yes.
Jason Hervey, as a kid who grew up obsessed with the Wonder Years.
Yeah.
Immediately I'm like, oh boy, Wayne's here.
And also, he is great as the snotty kid actor in Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yes, he always, and from everything I've heard, he is the sweetest man in real life.
Well, that's
and
great.
Always was.
Plays a really good asshole, as many sweet people can.
Yes,
but
I've often heard it is quite the opposite of generally the villain. The people who play villains tend to be the nicest people in Hollywood, and the heroes tend to be the ones who are kind of douchebags.
There you go.
So that
but
makes
they're
sense to me.
bullying him first by saying, "Why are you so fat, fat kid?
Yep.
Can't you stop eating?" And of course, Horace is introduced to eating a Snickers bar.
Delicious.
And he says, "I have a glandular condition."
Yeah.
That's funny.
And
then they smack the Snicker out of his hands and they step
it into
on
the ground. And I'm like, that's not cool. But then I would have gone red with rage and murdered these two if someone tore my comic book in half.
Okay.
That would have been the end of it for me.
In addition to tearing his comic in half, they use several times the F word. Yep. This is great.
Do we get an R word in here? I can't remember if we get an R word
This is PG-13.
Yeah.
Oh, an R word.
Yeah.
I think we do.
Yeah.
I think really the first 5 minutes are the worst part of this movie, where it's just awful language.
And it's really where you're living, though, in the all 13 to 14-year-old boys who are terrible. because
Yes.
Rudy's introduction is also there's no way in the world that a 14-year-old kid is smoking a cig in a movie today. Not unless it's some gritty R-rated indie picture.
But it's just so cheesy. I can't even imagine that did Shane Black and Fred Dekker think this kid was cool, or were they mocking cool kids? Because this riding up on a like a huffy dirt bike and with a looking like Fonzie and smoking a cigarette, you're like, and he's a junior high school student?
Fuck
what the fuck is this?
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, life's hard, man.
Hey,
life's hard for Rudy.
Like I said, 10-year-old me thought Rudy was a badass, though.
Well, he is a badass because he clearly likes the nerd kids and stands up immediately for Horace.
I mean, I think that was...
He says, are you messing with my friend Horace?
Yeah. As a kid who was not the Horace, but was definitely more like the Sean or Patrick characters growing up, I definitely wish I had had a Rudy, like it was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool?
I was Sean, but I looked like Horace and still do. But also, yes, added to their mini sins, the two tough guys have grabbed out of Horace's hands in issue, and I believe it may be issue 1, depending on the cover, of George Perez's Wonder Woman run. I recognize the cover, and they tear it in half and drop it on the ground.
They said, you died for that.
A George Perez Wonder Woman comic, and you tear it up?
No, that is art. Oh. That is the desecration of art, sir.
It is. It is, and I am going to write a strenuously worded letter to...
I've got all the omnibuses of that run, because...
Oh, my God. That is still, to this day, I don't care. People come, and they're very good people do Wonder Woman, but that is still where someone had the brains to pull all the weird disparate elements that is Wonder Woman and make it a great...
I completely agree. That is the definitive
Except
Wonder
for
Woman.
Steve Trevor. It always bugged me that he decided Steve Trevor was a Vietnam vet and was older than Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I will agree with you there too. On that.
All right, anyway.
Yeah, but that is a great run.
But Rudy shows up to protect him, and he is an older kid that even the bullies respect and they're afraid of.
He's
and
fucking
Rudy
smoking
tells
a
them,
cigarette in the middle of school and just being like, the fuck you looking at?
Yeah, and he's like, hey, man, looks like you dropped your Snicker bar. And Hervey's like, I know, that's Horace. He's like, pick it up. You don't want that to go to waste. And he makes the bully eat Horace's stomped on Snicker bar, and all the kids are like, ew.
Yeah, very nice.
It's a good introduction.
By the way, I was looking these kids up on IMDb. Ryan Lambert, who plays Rudy, I don't know if you looked him up on IMDb. He's looking less like a Rudy and looking more like you and I now.
I mean, that's our... Yeah, there he is.
No, he's like he looks like a bespectacled, one of our guys,
a bespectacled nerd.
Yeah, and that's great.
He looks like he's probably doing a podcast right now.
He's still working. He's got a movie that just completed called Wrecker, whatever that is.
Actually, I do see that most of our cast here that I said aren't great. I didn't mean that they're not good, but they don't have. They've all had careers that have gone for a while.
Unfortunately, we did lose Horace at a young age. He died at 22.
Oh God, I didn't see that. That's horrible.
97. Yeah.
Oh.
Died of pneumonia at 22.
That's horrible.
That is.
I feel like shit now. Thanks.
Sorry. He had left the industry and was working as a legal assistant for a law firm when he died.
But at least this same year that he's a Monster Squad, he was a recurring character on Punky Brewster. So
yes,
he had that.
I will say I recognized him from that and from the episode of Small Wonder he did, because I have seen every Small Wonder a few times. No.
Small Wonder.
Small Wonder. Here's the thing.
Even I was too old for Small Wonder, which is amazing that you
here's the thing.
Dug that up out of the bargain bin. Like I got to get the box set.
I have the Shout Factory sets of Small Wonder. Because the thing
do you have Out of This World? Do you have that one too? Which was about the little half alien girl?
That has not been released in any form that I've seen, but I'm aware of the show. Small Wonder to me is one of those shows that I watch and I'm just like, I can't believe this was on. And was on for 4 seasons.
but syndicated.
Yeah.
Syndicated is where a lot of the weirdest
And
stuff.
the best thing, there are featurettes and commentaries on those Shout Factory DVDs, and they talk about it being syndicated. It's the best thing where they get the creator goes, "I took it around every network and they said no." And all the actors going, "Oh man, they must have felt bad once the show was big in syndication." It's like, I don't think they did, because
it
terrible.
actually was a hit in syndication, but it's a sliding scale as to what big in syndication is versus what big on network is.
Well, I used to watch Charles in Charge in syndication.
It made the jump.
Yeah, it started in network and then went to syndicate. By the time I was watching it, it was a syndicated show for sure, with that second family. Also, Ashley Bank, who plays Phoebe the Phoebe, she's definitely been in some stuff, because she looks familiar to me.
Yeah,
like,
I looked at
as an
her
adult.
IMDb, and again, she has actually done a lot of horror, brushed up against a lot of horror stuff.
Well, and certainly any of the Monster Squad is welcome at any horror, comic, sci-fi convention.
Exactly.
For life.
Exactly.
You can always make money from being one of the Monster Squad.
But you also see in a lot of these guys' IMDb credits, big jumps where you assume that they were kid actors, then they went to school, they got a whole other career, they might have started a family, and then maybe in their late 30s or early 40s, they're like, I miss acting.
Yeah.
And then they come back and suddenly you'll see
Correct.
they have new credits. You're like, good for them.
Yeah.
They went and they had a life, and then they decided to act
And I will
again.
say, it looks like, I don't see anything from any of them that looks like a hard turn to drugs or a lot of
no, that's good.
bumping up against
None
the
of them
law.
ended up doing gay porn. Again, no shame on anyone who's done gay porn.
I will just point people. You don't have to. I'm not going to go into it, but go ahead and look up what the boy from Small Wonder is up to, because not
really?
great.
Okay. Okay. Well, moving on.
Yeah. So I do love the when it cuts away from that to the kids arguing about, this really felt true to me, about whether or not the Wolfman can drive a car is very funny.
Well, throughout here, like I said, I wish this had the space or the consideration to give us more of home life and character work and things like that, because at the end of the day, I couldn't really remember the kids' names.
No,
I mean, I knew them by archetype, like the leader kid, the smallest one. Then there's the I don't want my kid sister around and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
There's the dog that gets blamed for farting. These are all tropes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I do love these conversations, because it's like, okay, this is what kids who love this stuff talk about. If it's comics, kids are talking about, where does Superman put underwear under his underwear? He's got the underwear on the outside, but does he have underwear under that?
Yeah.
These are those kinds of conversations. Can Wolfman drive a car? No, he can't.
Well, I do love, he could if he had to.
He could if he had to. That's great. Yeah.
They're talking about, because they're like, he's kind of a guy. He's wearing pants.
Yeah.
Like, he has to wear pants.
On.
Otherwise, and I love this line, otherwise, you'd see his wolf dork.
Yeah, he goes, but I also like where he goes, of course he's wearing pants. He had to. It was the 1940s. And they're talking about the old movies. And we talked about the same thing. Yeah. It's like, well, of course. I'd rather a werewolf just be Shaggy Man.
We talked about, of course, Werewolf of London, where he really buttoned up.
Where he grabbed his overcoat and his hat on his way out.
He threw on that scarf and was like, well, it's a bit chilly out, I think.
That's a bit chilly for werewolves.
Still one of the biggest laughs I've gotten from any of these movies.
Oh, yeah.
That shot, which is just hilarious. And of course, they walk by another staple of suburban, pseudo horror, the creepy house in town owned by the scary German man.
I mean, it is kind of a kid thing. I liked that fat kid is so insulting, but kids will just sort of like label something. So labeling the guy in the neighborhood scary German guy, or a scary German. I mean, that's
we never
funny.
do.
That's
by the way,
do.
we never do get a name on him. He is
never
credited as scary German guy, played by Leonardo Cimino, who, by the way, he died in 2012 at the age of 94.
That is really amazing, because this is 1987 and he's already old and had already done a lot of character work. He's one of those faces where you're like going, know that guy.
Yeah. But
he's very good here.
He continued well into the 90s and even into the 2000s acting there.
He's one of those classic, like, he's got a great you would be kind of scared of this guy if he lived in your neighborhood. He's got that kind of face.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you get to know him, and he's delightful. And it's wonderful.
It's one of the things that works the best for me in this movie is this guy's performance.
Sure. And the one seemingly out of place because it's heavy-handed but still effective moment where he says, like, monsters. Oh, I know plenty about monsters.
Oh, yeah.
And then you see his concentration camp tattoo, and you're like, oh
yeah.
You just told us a lot about his character without even giving us a name.
Yeah. So they do that, and Horace is going, well, hey, that Rudy kid's pretty awesome. Maybe he should join our monster club. And they're like, oh, he doesn't know shit about monsters. He's cool.
It does seem weird, but it's necessary for the movie. It does seem weird that not only is Rudy protective of these nerds, he honestly is really wanting to hang out with them. I mean, it could be because their clubhouse looks into the window of the hot chick, but
he does seem to discover that though once he's up there.
I know.
It didn't seem like he went up there knowing that.
Genuinely an older kid who wants to hang out with these younger nerds.
It reminds me of, and I mean, certainly one of the best shows ever, Freaks and Geeks, but the last episode of that when James Franco goes and plays D&D and really likes hanging out with the nerds.
Yeah.
And I think it's maybe that thing where he's a badass, but I think he's kind of a loner too, Rudy.
Yeah, there's that.
It would have been, once again, if you talk about if the movie had a little bit more time to explore, maybe he doesn't have a great home life and needs friends, and people are scared of him more than they actually like him. Anyway, so they want to do that. Then let's cut to these pilots going, geez, transporting these weird wooden crates around in this old B-17 bomber.
Okay, there's so much weird about this scene. Okay, and it's the pilots are a couple of guys.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that, and I like that they're
one of my favorite just random. If you're talking about just a random character actor, David Preval.
He's always great.
He's one of those guys who I'm always like, hey.
Yeah, it's always good to see him.
Mm-hmm.
But so it's weird that they're laying all this out, like the most expository thing. And why are they in a World War II prop plane?
It's classic screenwriting lampshade hanging, right? Where they're just like, we're going to acknowledge this is all weird and move along.
Yeah, maybe they had stock footage of a propeller plane. I don't know.
Well, it's weird because then he has the model of it later. The German guy does.
Well, it's not the same kind of plane.
But it's another World War.
It is another World War II bomber.
It's another bomber plane, though. You're going like, what is this, like, runner?
Who knows? And these are a couple of clearly American guys who went and picked something up in Middle Europe.
Their cargo. I want to know a whole thing about these guys' cargo business.
Yeah. But apparently this plane is not their usual thing because they're commenting on why are we flying cargo in World War II.
This is all we got. This is what they gave us when we came in.
And they're flying from Europe to somewhere USA.
Yep.
And they have spooky crates in the back.
Yep.
And for some reason, the cargo hold of this plane is lit with red light because that's awesome and scary.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And they hear some noises back there, and our buddy's like, I'm going to go check that out. You stay up here. And he's like, all righty. And they're trading like dumb jokes back and forth.
And like I said, apparently there was a lot more of this.
Oh, boy. I'm glad we got off this easy.
This is one where if this was a studio note, good call, studio, because Jesus Christ, we do not need more.
Yeah, this is strange.
There's probably already too much of these guys, really.
Right, right. And both actors are fine, but
I don't know the other guys well, but Preval certainly. I mean, my God, there's also a part of me that just hates him every time I see him because of how despicable he was as Richie Aprile on The Sopranos.
Oh, I know.
Oh my God, one of the most despicable of Sopranos characters.
But here, most importantly, he's going to go check out the sounds, weird sounds.
Oh, I do love this scene in the back of the plane, though.
Yeah.
Because, here's Dracula milling about.
He's just standing there.
Yeah, man. This is this is the kind of Dracula I like. A Dracula who will not move, He'll just be like, hello.
First, he flies at him as a bat.
Yes.
And he's like, "Wah!" And for one thing, I think the pilot guy would be like, "What the fuck are bats doing in our cargo hold?" But then Dracula forms behind him,
Yeah.
and then it's just like a looking at him. And here's what's so strange. Again, logic brain never shuts off. But I'm sitting there going, Dracula's plot is to get to that amulet.
Yeah.
He knows where it is, not specifically, not the house, but he knows where in America it is because he has booked this flight. Why doesn't he just have the plane land where it should land and then their crates taken to a place? Instead, he's somehow arranged to stop the flight in the middle of it, fuck with the pilots, and then just drop.
Yeah.
Have the crate with the Frankenstein monster dropped, and then him with it going, woohoo! Like, what?
He's
Why?
riding the thing down like Slim Pickens and Strangelove.
And he's waving a cowboy hat that we didn't even see where that came from.
Yeah. This is a real Texas Dracula. How you all doing?
It is. I mean, at least it's effective as being similar to.
It's
great,
it's like because when he tries to drop him with the cargo and he's just floating there, dude. That's what I want to see
the
Dracula
pilot
doing.
in the back is like, I'm not gonna fuck with you, weird dead guy, and he opens the Bombay doors.
Yeah,
but Dracula just hovers.
Oh,
it's pretty cool.
I love it. That once again, that's the kind of stuff. Duncan Regehr is so in as Dracula. That, like
he's so in that you just wish they had given him stuff.
Yeah,
give that guy more stuff.
Yeah, a friend of this show, friend of all the podcasts, Donovan Eilert. And I wish he was here, actually. I should have brought him in for this because he once told me the best cinematic Dracula, Duncan Regehr.
I cannot go with him there. I will just say this is a fine cinematic Dracula for a kid's film.
I think Regehr could do a more legitimate Dracula, and I'm kind of sad we never got to see it.
I think he could have, yes. I mean, he does not play this as a joke.
No.
And he is
That's
effective.
So key to this.
Very effective as being imperious. It's just he doesn't get get enough room to strut.
Like we said, like everybody in this movie, he is the pop culture icon of Dracula more than he's really playing the character. But there are some great moments from him. And certainly I grew up watching Duncan Regehr every week as Zorro. So and then eventually when he went on to Deep Space Nine after that. So,
but you get plenty of stuff of him like Dracula walking with people trying to come at him and him just tossing them. I mean, I love that.
That
all day
scene
long.
with the cops is like, dude,
Dracula cannot be stopped.
That's what I was talking about when I'm going like, that's the scene I've always wanted in every other Dracula. Like, why isn't there more Christopher Lee scenes of him doing stuff like that?
Yeah.
When he's just hurling cops about and stuff like that. And you're like, yeah.
This also has one of those moments. Remember when we saw one of the Lee films, one of the later ones where not in the present day, but the one where he uses like a sword and stuff to stab that dude. And you're like, why is he using implements? It just seems weird.
Yeah.
And in this movie, we have Dracula lighting sticks of dynamite and tossing them in the building. And I'm like, Dracula with tools and weapons seems so weird. But he's like going, fuck you, fuck your house, lighting dynamite, throwing it.
I know. Well, I do. That's the thing, though. Regehr he sells me on Dracula using dynamite.
Well, sure. It is a much bigger thing that he could do just with his hands.
Also, it feels like a lark to him, right? Where he's like, Sure. He's almost like, oh, explosives, yes.
Yeah, let me try some of this shit.
Yeah.
This is some 20th century shit here.
Yeah. Like if Dracula's going to use a weapon or something like that, Dracula's going to pick up a machine gun, I want him to be fascinated by it or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
More than he needs it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, wow. Yeah, you mortals keep coming up with interesting little toys. So he drops out of the plane, and the crate with Frankenstein's monster
the crate drops out. He doesn't drop it. He actually turns into a bat and flies down with it. But,
sure. But he is following in the path because he needs to get his Frank.
And it lands just so perfectly in a swamp.
It lands perfectly in a swamp.
Or as Matt Gorley, as Irvin Kershner would say, a swamp.
Where he finds a Yoda.
Yeah, find with the little goblin guy.
The little goblin guy. There's a little the plane with the wings that do the thing.
So that crashes. And so then we cut back to now they have we don't see how they get Rudy to come up, and he's just like, cool, I guess I'm in your treehouse, and they're testing him on his monster knowledge.
And that's nerdy, and of course I like that. Where they're going, okay, if you really want to join our club, you have to answer monster questions. And they're like going, how do you kill a vampire?
Mm-hmm.
He goes, they say, name 2 ways you can kill a vampire.
Yeah.
He's like, well, stake him in the heart. They're
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, that's one.
Mm-hmm.
And then he uses sunlight. He's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, all right, sure, yeah. But how about a werewolf? It's like, well, there's only one way. It's a silver bullet. No, there's 2. What is it? Well,
And then they're like comedically flustered because they can't think of another way. And one guy goes, car crash?
a car crash, and then another one says old age.
Old age, yes.
Car crash
Which,
really
that's
gets
not
me.
true. We know that that's an eternal curse.
Yeah, car crash though did make me laugh a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're doing that. Meanwhile, yeah, he has taken notice of the hot sister across the way.
He finds out that the hot high schooler who is undressing with her blinds open, but this is a PG-13 movie. We just see it from behind.
Yeah.
He finds out that that she is the older sister of the youngest, barring the sister. I mean, the little girl.
Yeah.
The youngest member of the Monster Squad, who's younger than the other guy.
Eugene. Who has the closest to my bedroom with all the Marvel comics?
Well, he's the Marvel comic.
Yeah.
Even though that's not clearly stated, he has a Punisher poster and he has a Spider-Man poster.
Yeah. I was looking to see if there was an Iron Man because that would foreshadow, of course, that
yeah,
Shane Black
I did
would
the
make
same
an
thing.
Iron Man. Yeah,
oh,
because we're nerds.
Nerds. I was like, oh man, if only you had an Iron Man poster, it would prove that Shane Black was always fascinated with Iron Man.
Yeah, I think. The sense I get is Shane Black is a general comics fan, and Iron Man was like, "Sure, my buddy's playing Iron Man. I'll do Iron Man."
Yeah, I think it had more to do with me and RDJ go way back, and I know his voice.
And I think particularly in what Black is talking about, he's a comics guy, but he's really a pulps guy.
Oh yeah.
Hence the Doc Savage thing and all the hard-boiled detective stuff. I think that's really his jam.
Yeah, it's his jam.
So, because he'll talk about it. Once again, he's a nerd that any interview I've seen with him, he's dropping references left and right to stuff where it's like, yep.
Well, come on, people. Let's make Doc Savage. Let's make it happen.
I agree. Remember in the 90s when it was going to be Arnold? I'd be Doc Savage.
Didn't like that either. It's just the thing with The Rock, which is a better choice if he weren't as old as he is. But the whole thing is, they just went with who's a big guy.
Yes, that is the thing. That is the thought.
I mean, he does need to be a big guy, but Christopher Reeve was a thin man that got built up to be Superman. Why don't you find a good actor who fits the part and build him up? Don't just go for big guy and hope that he can act. Because Arnold can act, but I'm sorry,
not as
Doc Savage isn't Austrian.
No,
he's just not.
I thought
Sergeant Rock. I remember when they were talking about Arnold was going to play Sergeant Rock, and I was like going,
everybody tosses this guy out, but I really do think Hemsworth could be Doc Savage.
Yeah. Well, Hemsworth can do anything.
Yeah, that guy's amazing. I like my note just says they test Rudy's monster knowledge, he's peeping.
That's it.
Yeah.
He does like the kids, but he is very fascinated with the naked lady across the way.
Hey, it's the best of all worlds, right? I can hang out with these kids who I like, but also maybe take a peek at Eugene's sister.
Hello.
Nice lady.
And we find out that she is a blonde, a stereotypical suburban dream girl. She's a blonde cheerleader.
And she has that's the thing that lands me in California a little bit, is her very sort of California, verging on Valley Girl, but not quite. But
this does feel like suburban California. When you get into
California.
swamps, you're like, I don't.
That's the thing, because it clearly is California, and also I think of Shane Black as a California. Almost all of his movies take place in L.A. That's just his thing. And once again, even when he did The Predator, he moved it to suburban California.
That's true.
This is also where we have Phoebe the Phoebe, which is Sean's little sister going, I know about monsters. I can be in the monster club.
Yeah, so she's even younger. She's like 5 years old.
Yeah.
And she's like, let me join the club. And they're like, no. And she's like, I'm going to tell mom. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But she is a natural and very adorable actor.
This especially as a kid, really, I related to having a younger sister who did want to tag along on stuff like this. This felt very true to my experience of being like,
not mine, unfortunately.
Right.
Never had a sister. Never had a younger sibling. So unfortunately, I was the tag along.
I have a sister who's 3 years younger than me, and when we were kids, there was a lot of like, John won't let me in his room. I want to play with him, and it's like, you have to be nice to your sister. And I was like, ugh.
Yeah, but you've been getting back at her for years for that. So, she's in therapy, right? Still.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Due to my decades now of psychological torture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pulling for her.
It all worked out. So they go inside. You talk about the convenience. I roll with it, but the mom just going, I was at a garage sale and I got Van Helsing's diary. It's the real deal.
This is yes. This is why I just go. This is a kids movie because they know that adults would roll their eyes at like I was at a garage sale and I found the diary of Van Helsing and I bought it for you, my son, because I know you like monster shit.
I mean,
but
in some
she
ways,
knows it's tied into monsters, but then she's comedically dumb about like Van Helsing. He fought Godzilla, right? And you're like, oh, stop, movie. That's even the kids are like going, that's stupid.
So this is Mary Ellen Trainor, who's a real fixture of 80s movies. I mean, I remember she was in like everything I saw.
She is in this practically in everything,
including
in the 80s.
She's in Lethal Weapon. She's in all the Lethal Weapons actually, as the police psychiatrist who Riggs is always mocking. That's a runner throughout those movies. She's in the Goonies. She's in a bunch of Richard Donner's movies. She's in Die Hard. And she's in my oft-mentioned one of my favorite shows, Parker Lewis Can't Lose. She was Parker Lewis's mom.
Yep.
So,
which of course ties into me knowing Maya Bruton.
Yep. That it all leads back to that.
Who did confirm years after the fact that Parker Lewis could not lose, was actually physically incapable of losing.
And that's one step closer to me meeting Corin Nemec.
It's gonna happen, man.
Dude, the amount of conventions that guy does, it is going to happen. He's big on the convention circuit.
Yeah, his career is mysterious to me because, again, he was the real deal.
You watch that show, and I do not understand why he didn't become a big star.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not a huge film star, but he should have been like a light TV staple.
A light comedy lead. He's really good. He really carries that thing.
So I do not know what happened. I can't wait to read his autobiography.
He ended up on Stargate SG-1 for a while, which is a lot of what his convention appearances, I think, stem from.
I'll take your word for it. As a program I never followed.
Of course, he was he played Harold Lauder in the Stand miniseries. That's right. That was around that same time as Parker Lewis. So he had some heat on him. He's in the Wesley Snipes movie Drop Zone as well.
His heat is all concentrated into a small period.
That's it exactly. It seemed like he did. I mean, he did do stuff with the Parker Lewis fame, is I guess what I'm saying. But I don't know. It didn't. But being the fifth lead in Drop Zone, I don't think did much for him.
It's still amazing to me that the TV version of Ferris Bueller was not good.
No,
and the ripoff of Ferris Bueller, which was Parker Lewis Can't Lose,
really
was
good.
such a better show.
It's a way better show, and
way
it's a way better Ferris
great
Bueller
side
show.
Characters,
really well written.
Abraham Ben Ruby, is that his name? That the big guy?
Yeah. Who ended up on ER?
Yeah, I used to see on the lot, but I was like, oh, Parker Lewis. He was great in that.
Played Kubiak, everybody was so good on that show. Yeah.
And yes, Maya was great as the younger sister.
Maya was great. The great Tim Stack as his father. Yeah, all very, very good stuff. Anyway, I'm always about to talk about Parker Lewis Can't Lose. So let's get back to this movie.
We can move on.
This, though, also felt, and the Van Helsing thing is crazy, but the whole, like, you like that stuff felt very much like my relationship with my mom, where it's like, right, the superheroes, and sure.
The beat that works for me is not this. I mean, it's you're like, oh boy, that's convenient. But I do like, he's like, oh, are you kidding? This is great. He opens up and goes, and it's in German.
Yes, that is
nice. It's a good beat.
It's a good beat. That is a nice beat. And then his dad comes home, and his dad is a fucking leading character from a Shane Black movie. Here comes burnout police detective Stephen Mock.
Yeah. he loves his family, but he's got no time for him because the job won't leave him alone.
Until these maniacs stop slitting throats out there. Like this guy, I mean, he doesn't say stuff like that, but this guy is like on the trail of a killer probably. And
Well, I know that's why it's so weird that this is a very gentle suburban world we're in.
Yeah.
But every time his character's talking about his job or
Yeah.
anytime he's shown at the police department, it feels like you're suddenly in a big city cop show and you're like, what?
Some poor bastard got his brains blown out down at the stop and go,
I know. That's what I keep expecting is like this is kind of like going, gosh, it's hard out there. There was this old lady. She took a header outside the yarn store.
Yeah, exactly. Son of a bitch. Every day this job gets harder, man.
The paperwork on this thing's going to keep me at the desk all night.
I will say, growing up in the suburbs with, my best pal, Mike Gergoni, and his dad was a super intimidating police officer.
There you go.
Not grizzled to this extent, but definitely, I mean, just number one, imagine Gergoni, but like in his 40s, and that's his dad, right? I mean, that's sort of the thing where you go.
I'm already doing it. Thanks.
Yeah, so just a big, tough dude who would come home in his police cruiser, wearing a bulletproof vest or whatever, and you're like, shit, Mr. Gergoni. But
we weren't up to anything, sir.
I don't. We never were up. We didn't even have to. We were never. He never bothered to worry ever about Mike and his friends.
That's
it's
very
like
comforting.
Y'all sitting around the basement watching cartoons. Yeah, that adds up. If anything, it was more like, why don't you go out to some parties?
Hey, why don't you mix it up a little, huh? I hear there's something happening over at the yarn store.
Yeah. Boy, a lot of trouble at the yarn store in your imagination. And of course,
well, I love when we finally see downtown, and it is just it's that back lot. But
yeah,
it
stars
downtown
hollow.
Of this place is. It stars hollow, but they've redressed like here's a photo developing place.
Yeah.
Here's there's the magazine shop, the newsstand, and there's
all
a Burger
things
King,
that don't
but it's a
exist
Burger King that's set into like the buildings. It's not like a standalone restaurant. You're like, what?
Right.
And Burger King, by the way, I made the joke about there were no tie-ins, and it's true, but they still got a chunk of money from Burger King.
Sure did,
as you can tell, because there is the restaurant we see outside. And there's also when grizzled police dad comes home late to join his son on the roof to watch a drive-in movie from miles away.
Boy, I remember that as a kid being like, oh, how great would that be? How great would that be?
He's got a bag of Burger King with him.
He does. That's right. He does. This is Stephen Mocht, who is a character actor of this era.
Recognizable.
Do you know the one thing that is his weird touch with something I love, which is he was Gene Roddenberry's first choice to play Captain Jean-Luc Picard on Star Trek:
I did not
The Next
know
Generation. That. Roddenberry fought hard against Patrick Stewart. I don't want a bald guy. I don't want a British guy. I want clean-cut Captain Kirk-esque. That's what a Star Trek captain is. And it was everybody else who was like, I think this Stewart guy has got something interesting, though.
It is further evidence, if more was needed, that Roddenberry, for his visionary, I mean, he just by the end, the later days, he was out of touch. He just didn't know. Yeah,
and that's the thing where it's like Steve Mocht, very good actor, but I think would have been a pretty boring Star Trek captain.
Yep.
It's one of those things where, but he's in the documentary on the Next Generation Blu-rays. Mocked is going like, yeah, Roddenberry was literally calling me going like, it's you. I just have to get this British guy out of the way, but you're the guy.
That's great that he feels, comfy enough to like go, yeah, I'll talk to you guys about a part I didn't get that became iconic.
Yeah, exactly. And he's just going like, it's one of those things where he says like, he's like, I wouldn't have done the same thing. He goes, I can't even compare whether or not I feel bad. It's one of those things where it's like, am I upset? He goes, well, sure, it would have been a good gig, but he goes, I wouldn't have done what that guy did, so I don't know what.
And Stephen Mocht is fine, and
I like him in this movie a lot.
Long career,
yeah,
and he's done so much.
And his son,
and he is a good face and fit for a grizzled policeman dad.
And his son was the Spirit, Gabriel Mocht.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't put the blame of that movie on his shoulders.
No, I actually think he's a very good choice for that part. He's got that kind of square jawed.
He looked good.
Yeah, like pulp hero look to him.
What's he done? Oh, we can't get distracted on
Oh,
that.
no. Well, I'll just say Suits. USA needed Suits
he
for
became one of the Suits guys?
he's the main Suits guy.
Never watched it.
I watched it for a while, but talking about like 8-9 seasons of that. I watched 4 of it. Maybe
That was my mom's favorite show for a long time.
Yeah,
and I was always like, well, great.
Yeah, it was
Enjoy.
It was a totally charming, like bantery lawyer show.
There you go.
But it way overstayed its welcome, man. And to the point where like the other main suit guy leaves, and you're like, what the hell's the show then? Oh, we'll just keep it chugging.
It's like Superstore, and you're like, I like all these people, but Amy's gone now. Well,
yeah,
come back.
Yeah, aren't you the main character?
Okay then, goodbye.
Yeah. So yeah, and I do like that he goes, hey, you're not going to a movie with your friends because you got to babysit your sister because your mom and I have to go to marriage counseling.
I mean, again, where they keep trying to give us a Spielbergian Amblin thing, it's like the family has to be a little bit rocky.
Yeah.
Even though it's not delved into at all, it's just sort of like there.
Yeah.
And I somewhere they're like, notice in the trivia is like, one of the things that people tend to miss out on is you don't see it. People don't dwell on it, but she's got her bags packed.
Yeah.
It's like the mom's about to leave.
Well,
and they decided they wouldn't call attention to it, but they'd have the bags
that
in
is
the shot.
the Amblin Spielbergian thing. It's also the Shane Black thing, though. Like, all of his guys are at the end of their rope in a fucking marriage, or their wife's
well,
dead.
In the case of this, though, it's really the wife who's like, I'm done with this. And he's like, oh, come on, we can work this out.
But it's also...
But, of course, he's not willing to...
But I got a fucking mangler out there, honey. You can't believe the shit that's happening on these streets.
He does the line that is so typical that writers should never be allowed to use it again.
Yeah.
Is that the guy who is being guilted because of his profession or woman,
yeah,
the character always goes, you know what you were signing on for.
Yeah.
When a character says you knew what you were signing on for,
come on,
that
honey.
Is the laziest writing.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You knew you were marrying a cop.
I mean, that's
you
the
knew
thing.
I'd be walking the streets.
Because this cop character is just a side character. I mean, he's in it, but so it doesn't have the nuance or interesting wrinkles of other Shane
You knew
Black
I'd be
cop
picking
characters.
up old ladies outside the yarn store day and night.
I mean, we're talking that old lady was in pieces, honey. Once again, I just go back to Murderville, right? With the Will Arnett, that whole grizzled cop thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is exactly the parody, and here he's doing a fun. Everything is shorthand.
Yes.
Here it's like he's doing what he needs to do.
Oh yeah,
as
Mock's
the
a good actor
character.
who's doing what he
She's
can.
fine. Like, I miss you, and the kids miss you. We never see you anymore.
And then even here,
they're supposed to have dinner tonight, but nope, he's called out.
Oh no, they're not
His
supposed to have
partner.
dinner. They're supposed to go to marriage counseling. He goes,
Can't
you call
it's
the
not
woman and reschedule? There's some loon down at the station claiming he's a werewolf. And there's a mummy missing. Oh, we got shit going on here. It's also the classic thing of every crime, this guy gets called. You know what I mean? Like it's there's no one else to call. So
I
he's
love that his
literally
partner,
always out the door.
Who's another very recognizable character actor.
Yes, a guy who was in a lot of movies in this era.
Is apparently always at the station, because I'm like, wouldn't they have the same shift? His partner's calling him back into work. I'm like, oh geez, okay.
Stan Shaw.
So apparently in one night they have to deal with a crazy who wants them to lock him up, the police, because he's a werewolf. He's begging them. And actually I like that. That's like Chaney.
Yeah, very good. He's doing that. John Grease, who's a very good character actor.
He is
as well, and one of another recognizable face. I will say though, I look on here and it says there was, they probably had a stunt guy or whatever actually play the werewolf. I'd be like, what? I want to be the werewolf.
I'm sure Grease was like, I'm good.
Yeah, but being the nerd I am, I'm going like, if I'm going to play the human side of the werewolf, put me in the makeup.
Yeah. So at the police station, the guy's doing this, and he's like going, arrest me, and they're like, sir, just go somewhere and sleep it off. And then he keeps escalating
until he eventually grabs a gun from a cop.
He eventually grabs a gun, shoots it in the ceiling. He's like, you gotta do it. You gotta lock me up. I'm dangerous. And then another cop just blows him away.
It's the partner that guns him down.
No, it's not. It's a uniform cop.
I thought it was the partner that we see. Maybe we just see him pull his gun then, like because everybody's got their
Yeah.
guns out.
He's there to see this go down, but it's a uniform cop, and it blows him away.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Geez, that's crazy." Well, call the hearse or the morgue or whatever.
It's another fucking day in this suburban PD, man.
And then partner and Sean's dad, the cop, go to, and here's another thing. This is suburban California,
Yeah.
where there's a museum
That has
like
an Egyptian mummy in it.
has a huge Egyptian display.
And of course, we get the great joke of, what do you mean you don't know what happened to him? It's not like you just got up and walked out. Cut to the mummy walking away
cut to
from
the mummy
museum.
walking down the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not bad.
And
I mean, that's like, that. It's not like a laugh, but it's like a, yeah.
Well, the big joke that comes up later, which of course ties it into Monster Squad, I'm sitting there going, that is a good bit, but it has no logic behind that. Because the mummy is being called, obviously. All these monsters are being called by Dracula.
Right.
So the mummy is up, he's walking, but the next time we hear about the mummy, we're at the little kid's house.
Eugene.
Remind me of his name? Eugene.
Yeah.
And this is where we see his posters in his room, but he calls his dad in, who has one scene in the movie.
I love this guy's performance, though. The guy who plays the father, he really makes an impression.
He's like, so Eugene is like, there's a monster in my closet. And he's like, oh, you're not sleeping with me and your mom again. He goes, no, it's in there. He's like, okay, let me check it out. Mm-hmm. And then he does. He plays it up like dads will. He opens the door real quick. He's like, all right, you monsters, out of here. And he starts
this is the
waving
guy,
invisible monsters away.
Robert Lesser is this actor, and I'm going like, I know who this guy is immediately, and it's from a movie I've seen maybe as much as I've seen any movie, which is Die Hard. He's the guy on the plane who goes,
he's the guy who tells him to...
You're a nervous flyer. What you do is you take your shoes and socks off, and you make fists with your toes.
Yeah.
I thought he looked instantly familiar, and that's it. That's it.
And he does fine
a million other credits he has.
He tells all the monsters to leave his kid alone, and he's like, "There you go, it's all done." And he goes, "No, he's in the closet." And then the dad opens the closet without looking in. Obviously, he opens the closet, looking at Eugene, and goes, "See, nothing in there." And we actually see the mummy is in Eugene's closet and starts slowly moving his hand out, like And then the dad closes the door again, and Eugene's like, And then it's just a quick shot to the window where clearly the mummy has now left.
What is this mummy doing?
Yeah, what was this? I want to stop off at a kid's bedroom, stand in his closet till he notices me, and then leave without doing any damage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute, though. Is this later? Yeah, this is... Wait a minute. Well, yeah.
Well, I mean,
this is Dracula sending them after the kids, though.
No,
because they have the book.
No, he has not met with Dracula yet. He is still on his way when this happens.
No, Mummy and Werewolf find Dracula. I have. Then multiple scenes later, kid says there's monster in closet.
Oh,
because then this also after that scene where all the monsters assemble at the swamp and the Gill Man pulls the crate out of it.
Yeah.
That's when he's like, well, it won't work without the journal. We must find the journal. And then that's where Sean comes home and there's a message to call Mr. Alucard. Love that reference.
Oh boy.
And we do get, God damn it, we can't resist a Alucard. Let me write this out.
Well, if only that kid had a mirror. But I understand that most homes in the 80s did not have mirrors.
They weren't popular. They weren't popular at the time.
So he had to do letter jumble until he figured out, and it spells Dracula.
It takes him a little too long to put that together.
And here's the thing, especially if he's watched all these 40s movies.
I think the Mummy is looking for the book. That's what I think. I think the logic within the movie. I'm not saying that really lands, but I'm saying
no. You may be right, but they did not spell that out clearly. It seemed like just a setup for a dumb joke.
Well, the fact that the Mummy doesn't speak also makes you go like, what valuable information is he going to gather and then report back to Dracula?
Plus, also, this movie, again, counting on the fact that it's for kids and kids are not going to question any of this, you're like, how does Dracula know who has Van Helsing's diary?
Yeah, that is never explained.
How does he know Sean is anybody?
Also,
how does he know any of this?
Also, I love, why I want the scene of Dracula picking up the phone and going, yes, I'm calling for Sean. My name, Alucard.
Yeah, Mr. Alucard, and she on the dry erase board writes school.
Yeah,
Like, does this Mr. Alucard know you from school?
Yeah.
Question mark.
I'm a teacher. Yes.
All right, so I'm sorry I jumped us out of order, but
No.
But the
That-
mummy
that's-
has
that's all right.
escaped. The cop dad.
No, that's all right. We've got back on track because
Yeah.
then the monsters come. They pull the Frankenstein monster. Oh, the thing, Frankenstein does bring the monster back to life, and into this comes a favorite character actor of mine, Tom Noonan, and what a great choice for the Frankenstein monster.
Oh, very much so. And again, great makeup.
He's one of the best parts.
I
of this
do
movie
like
by
the scene.
far.
I mean, again, this is sheer comics for kids,
Yeah.
but the whole thing of them standing at the water's edge, and then the crate rises out of the water, and you're like, that's cool. But then what is pushing it up? It's the fucking gill man has retrieved the crate with Frankenstein's monster in it.
I mean,
and then
you
Dracula has electrodes in his cane to attach to the monster's electrodes and calls lightning down to revive him.
He extends the cane up to make it a lightning rod. You just
yes.
And everyone's standing there. You get the comic book group shot of everybody waiting for Frankenstein
and
to come back to life.
Him helping the creature out of the crate and calling him old friend. I'm like, okay, I love this shit. I know it's dumb.
That's the thing where it's like, this is not a great movie, but I'm just so charmed by it. I enjoy it. That's the thing. I watched this last night.
All right.
It is so watchable. It is so watchable.
I enjoyed watching it.
So then you get the scene after that, you get the scene with the kid and the mummy. And so then Sean now has assembled the Monster Squad after he put together the very brain-puzzling Alucard mystery.
Did we already have the scene with the little girl with Phoebe sitting at the water's edge throwing flour?
No, that happens during the day, because this whole movie happens in like a 24-hour period.
That's true.
Or a little over.
That's true. Man, this stuff comes together fast.
I mean, the movie does move, like we were saying. It really is wasting no time, and maybe could have slowed down. But yeah. So he goes, we're not a monster club anymore. Now we're the Monster Squad, because there are monsters in this town, and we are the only people who will believe that, which means we're the only people who can stop this. But we got to translate Van Helsing's diary. I do like Eugene going, my sister takes German.
Yeah. Well, it's an excuse to bring the hot chick into it, and it does pay off with a joke down the line. But this is, again, it made me feel very Goonies. It's like, oh, this is where the Carrie Green character comes in. She's the popular pretty girl who'd never hang out with these young nerds, but they need her for some reason. Oh, got it.
And so this is where Dracula's got the creature locked up in this dungeon cell. And he's like, I need you to go and get the diary from these kids. And if they give you any resistance, kill them.
Yeah, he basically says, look, man, this all has to happen tomorrow night. I've still got to get the amulet, and I can't go out during the day. So you're going to go get the diary, and if the kids fuck with you, kill them. And again, Noonan, very good. Though I wonder why Dracula has to have known the creature had a soft spot. But he's like, go out there and kill some kids. He's like, okay, master.
Yeah. Yeah, you do want Dracula then to be like, fuck, I knew this would happen. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Oh, did they bring you a ham sandwich and now they're your friends? Oh, Jesus. This always happens with you, Frank.
I want a minion, and this guy is just looking for friends. Shit.
He's just looking for friends.
Yeah. He is a pretty gentle soul, particularly gentle in this one. So the next scene is where she's throwing the flowers in the water.
And you don't see Frankenstein's monster approach her.
No.
It's just like, and maybe that was cut. But we know that's where she found him, because very quickly she will introduce him.
We're back to referencing 31 Frankenstein.
Yep. Loved it.
Yeah, I mean, it was, again, that's, I think, another reason why this movie charms me so much, is it is clearly made by people who love the same stuff we do.
Sure, absolutely.
And, like, even if the movie isn't... And then, look, I have no doubt there was probably a cooler draft of this that got reined in by budget and, like, well, it's a kid's movie, so you Jesus, Shane, you can't have everybody saying fuck every line.
So the Monster Squad
he goes, wait till you meet the
is
kid in Last Boy Scout. She's going to use all the words.
just you wait.
Yeah.
Well, they do have this little girl who it may not have been 5. She might have been all of 6.
Yeah.
But they do have her saying like chicken shit or something at the end.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
be a chicken
I
shit.
do. That is something watching this movie. I go like, I do miss kids who cursed in movies.
Well, it was in the 80s. They were just acknowledging that kids do that.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
now we're trying to pretend that kids don't.
I know. And I this isn't that, it's the, I mean, look, I was a kid who, she was 6, by the way.
Okay.
And I go back to Bad News Bears. Those kids were real trouble. You know,
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
those were
Yeah.
bad kids.
That is a film that could not be made now.
Well,
Not even the remake could be made now.
No, yeah, even the remake is too much for people. I don't know why they felt the need to remake it, but it was okay.
Well, Linklater, you know, he's the right guy for that if you're gonna get anybody.
I want to watch that space movie he's doing on Netflix. Let's see here. Yeah. Oh, so while this is happening, they're passing by the old scary German guy's house, and they go, maybe he speaks German.
They're trying to work up the courage to actually go knock on his door
and they go, I do love this.
Ask
they
him
go
to translate.
Well, how do you say "please don't murder me" in German? And he appears and says it to them.
Yeah, he's right behind them, and he actually says it in German, and
Which
then they're like,
fun.
"Oh, there he is!"
And then they do the classic thing where he's holding the knife inside the house. He goes, "Well, gentlemen, time is almost up to finish this pie."
To finish this pie. You're like, oh, it was a scary old man with a knife, and then he's cutting them pie. And they've got had their fill of soda and pie.
They've got cans of Pepsi. He's giving them cherry pie. I'm going like, oh man, I am hanging out with this German dude all the time.
I want to hang out with ex-concentration camp German guy all day long because he's nice and he made them pie.
Is the like Allied plane what the guys who rescued him from the concentration camp were maybe flying, and that's why he has the model of it?
Maybe so.
I mean, that is pure like linking that.
They
to
never
that.
make any explicit explanation of why he has it.
That would make
sense. But one of the kids sees a B-17 model and is like, "Oh, this is cool." He goes, "That is a B-17 bomber with the blah, blah, blah." And I'm
he
like,
associates that with the Allies, and that's who saved it. I don't know. Maybe that's something there. There's maybe.
It may have also just been shorthand for not only is he nice, but he was anti-Nazi.
Yeah.
You can clearly see because he has an Allied plane model.
Also, the concentration camp tattoo definitely makes it seem like he's not pro-Nazi.
Yeah, that would also indicate he probably wasn't pro-Nazi.
Might have some issues with the Nazis.
He might just.
Yeah. Also,
but so they
maybe
do get him to. They get him to translate the diary.
Yes, they do. And this is where we learn about everything that's going on. Once every 100 years, good and evil, the forces of good and evil are aligned, which allows this amulet that is normally indestructible to become destructible. And if it is
because
destroyed,
the amulet is concentrated good.
Right. And if it is destroyed, then evil will reign over the world.
Right.
It's very, once again, I mean, you're talking about in that kids movie thing, it's very like good, evil, this, that. It's very simple.
Yeah,
and
we also got our ticking clock because tomorrow night at midnight is the 100 years since Van Helsing tried it the last time. And you have to recite this German spell to cause the amulet to open the portal and suck all the evil into limbo.
Yes. And they need a virgin to read the, incantation.
Which is why the peasant girl was there in the flashback. Right. So you need a virgin girl. That's not sexist at all. To recite this German.
It does have to be a female specifically.
Yep.
Yeah, because that's right. Because you can't have one of the Monster Squad do it.
Well, I thought you could have done a joke like that.
Yeah.
Because you could have had Rudy be a bragging kid who says he's had all this action.
Yeah.
And then at the end where it's like, oh my God, you said you were virgin. And then she's like, sorry, I'm not. And then it's like, Rudy has to fess up and go, I'm a virgin. And then Rudy could have read it.
Yeah.
But instead, if you have to have a girl, why not have it be a 5-year-old?
Yeah. So with that, they need a virgin, which does lead to this cut where they just cut to Rudy going, you know any virgins? And he spits out his drink.
Yeah.
That's a good spit take. And that's the thing and it does remind, Shane Black does the same thing in The Nice Guys. There's the exact same style of cut, and it's just to somebody asked Russell Crowe about what happened to his marriage, and it just cuts to him at dinner with his wife. She goes, "I'm fucking your dad," and it cuts back. That's it, and it's so funny.
I love The Nice Guys.
That
Damn,
movie,
I wish there was a sequel. I want a sequel so bad.
You talk about the Shane Black movie that needs a franchise. The Nice Guys. I need more of those. That's
all day long.
That might be his best movie. I love that movie.
It is just because it has all the mockable Shane Blackness, but it's knowing.
Yeah.
And it's also charming. You love those dudes. They're schmucks.
They're really
good.
And
the relationship they have with the young lady, it's all like, oh, this is great.
It's really, really good.
Oh, I want another one.
Yeah, I know. It's one of the best Gosling performances to do.
Hashtag more Nice Guys.
Yep.
Start the internet campaign.
They do talk about the vortex that opens, and that can suck the forces of evil into it, which we kind of know. And so, so Phoebe, though...
The scene is basically explaining everything we saw in the pre-credits.
When they get back to their treehouse, though, Phoebe's there, and she goes, "I have something to show you guys." And, of course, it's the Frankenstein monster.
Yeah, it's another thing of, like, she's like, she's being annoying, and they're like, she's like, no, and they're like, "We have to find the monster." She's like, "I can help, blah, blah, blah." And she goes, "See?" And there's the Frankenstein monster, just walks out from behind the tree, and they all freak out, and she goes, "Can I be in the club now?"
It's great. It's great, and he's her friend. The way she just holds one of his fingers...
Well, you have an
Adorable.
actual child. She is actually 6 years old.
Yeah.
Tom Noonan's a big guy, but they also have him on the enormous, what are those, asphalt spreader shoes?
Yeah.
And so when she's just holding his hand, she's holding like a finger. It's adorable.
It's so good. And they bring him up into the... I love just once again, and Noonan's taking it seriously too. He's Frankenstein monster exploring all the stuff. And when they give him the Frankenstein mask...
They hand him it's a nerd knowledgeable moment, but they hand him a Ben Cooper box with the old style Frankenstein mask and costume, and he sees the actual face mask of him, and it hurts his feelings.
He says,
and he goes ugly. He's pointing at himself like
ugly,
scary,
and
they're like, "No, you're cool. We dig you."
I do actually think Noonan is. I do think he is amongst the best Frankenstein monster performers.
Well, if you're going to play him in all of these examples, if you're going to play them as iconic, also young down, not quite dumbed down, but for younger viewers, yes. If you want the Frankenstein monster to be a simplistic child man, which is a way to play him,
well,
Noonan does a great job.
On the Blu-ray, there's a featurette on there where Noonan's talking about like how he really approached it and dug into it, and as much as he committed to anything else, and he wasn't treating it as a novelty thing or whatever. He's really trying to, and you're going like, that's great, man, and it works. I mean, both he and Reguer, I think, had that approach, and it works in their performances.
I think that it's a fine performance. It's not quite as funny as his performance in Manhunter, but it's close.
I was going to bring up that I've mentioned before how much I love the movie Manhunter, and he is one of the most chilling serial killers committed to film in that movie.
Yeah.
His Dollarhide. I love Ray Fiennes, but like Ray Fiennes couldn't get to that, when another remake that really didn't need to happen.
No.
We got to do Red Dragon with Hopkins though. You don't. Yeah. I love Brian Cox.
But it's a prequel, and the actor is clearly many years older than the character would have been at that point.
Yeah, I do like.
It doesn't matter.
Norton as Will Graham is pretty good though. That's a good choice.
Sure.
I mean, actually, everybody's good in it. But anyway, so then they go. We have Dracula and the Wolfman searching around for where'd that amulet get to?
Yeah, so they knew it was in this town, and they track it down to, this is convenient, an old mansion.
Yeah.
An old mansion that is at number 666.
Great. The non-kids movie would have had people living there, and Dracula would have killed them, which would have been cool.
Yes.
Like if they were just sitting there in their living room and suddenly Dracula's there, it's like, hello.
But this is like creepy haunted house place, and they they are searching it, and then eventually Dracula, who's kind of just mystically sensing, is like, it's right behind this wall,
Yeah.
and he smashes through it, and the amulet is being held in a chamber inside in the basement
Yeah.
of this old house, which means that Van Helsing or someone of his family line or something
Yeah.
has put it under there in this chamber, and it's walled up with a bunch of crucifixes, and Dracula's like, well, it's in there, we'll get it.
A way they could have gone is you could have made the old German man a Van Helsing.
You could have, and he kind of, I mean, he's really the guy that's
He's
like,
the
well,
de
I'm not
facto
sure I
Van
believe
Helsing,
all
but
this,
you could have literally made him the guy who's been protecting
oh,
the amulet.
yeah, you could have made him like a descendant. Yeah, it's true.
Where it's sort of like, my family has held on to this amulet.
This is my job.
Yeah.
I don't even need to translate that thing because I know it backwards and forwards.
That's a route you could have gone that would have actually simplified.
Too bad I've had so much sex. So much sex.
I did.
I cannot.
There was
say the
something
spell.
about that where it's like, well, of course the old man wouldn't be a virgin, but there's something so weird to think that guy has done it.
Oh man, he is.
Oh, you have no idea. You have no idea how much I've had. Oh, just woman after woman, bang, bang, bang.
I added pages to the Kama Sutra. I came up with shit you can't even believe. I have diagrams I would show you, but you're children.
So while they're doing that, then it goes to, all right, now we get our montage of them having to wait through the day, set to Rock Until You Drop by Michael Cimbello, which I have here. I don't know if you'll be able to hear this, Brendan, but... Can you hear it? No, okay. Well... yeah. It's very 80s.
All the music in this is very 80s, and it's all very bargain based.
Yeah, it does sort of feel like why couldn't we couldn't afford like a real band's song?
Yeah. How do you spell it? Oh, how do you spell the singer's last name?
Sembello. Cimbello.
Because he had. Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. He's the maniac guy from Flashdance.
Oh, wow. Well, that was.
I was like, I know the name, and he had other hits, but that was his big one.
The thing I love most, of course, about this whole montage is Rudy making monster-killing weapons in shop class.
Yes. He shows the shop teacher like a box or a bird feeder or something. He's like, yeah, I'm doing this. And then the teacher's like, okay, walks off. And then he goes back to sharpening stakes. Yeah. I love it.
Sharpening stakes. Now, him casting bullets, I'm going, well, you can cast the bullets, but where's he getting the gunpowder and stuff that he's going to...
I know that we don't see.
No, but he's got the casing and the bullet, and he really
stole
well done.
The silverware from. Yeah. It's not his own family. He stole it from Sean's family.
Oh, his family.
Because we see, we see Sean's mom opening her thing of this silverware and going, "Wait a minute."
Yeah.
But he has made apparently one silver bullet.
Yes. Yeah, well, it's interesting because it seems like he's made more when he's on when they pours it out on the table. Like he has a finished one, and then he. Oh, I don't know, but then he only has the one. Maybe those are test ones or something like that, or
maybe those are actual bullets that he got. And
he's gonna replace with the silver tip. I don't. Yeah, well, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's cool when he uses it later.
It is.
I do like Dracula drugging and tying up the Wolfman when he's not in wolf form, going like, yeah, I don't need you running off and blabbing about shit. So
yeah, you're just going to stay here medicated until the full moon, and then you can help me.
Yeah. And so then, this is cool though. You talk about where it gets a little dark. He goes, meanwhile, I'm going to have a little snack or whatever. And he goes to a closet where he's kidnapped 3 women.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. That's pretty dark, and he's just like,
Apparently, they turn into his brides very quickly.
Yeah, I'm gonna have. I think he does say like, while I get a bite. Ooh,
yeah. Ooh. One of the brides looks familiar as just like a character actress. I need to look IMDb up.
See, now I shouldn't have played that because I had this in my head last night too. Rockin' till you drop.
Yeah, you got to stop, man. And that's not good. The music.
No, it's not.
Good.
But it's an earworm. It's not good. But it's in my head.
It's better than that Monster Squad theme at the end of the.
Oh God, that is horrible. That
is so bad.
Are you talking about Bryn Barron probably? Because she's the only one who has like an IMDb.
Bryn Barron.
She's one of the brides here. Party girl / bride. I'm saying this.
Oh,
she
I
seems
see.
She seems to have
I don't think she's the one.
Well, she seems to have like an IMDb picture and credits and stuff. So.
Oh, maybe
I do love Party Girl / Vampire or Pantry Girl. Sorry, of course.
Pantry Girl because they're in the pantry
/ Vampire.
Well, I've looked at all their names.
Mary Albee has also. Oh, she went into be doing to stunt work.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah. And she's still to this day doing stunt work. So, anyway, so the cops get a report about this hearse driving around.
Yeah,
and they're like, "What is a black hearse with a skull on the end of it?" His
dad's partner guy is like, "Yeah, well, wait till you hear about this. Some crazy stuff. There's been a black hearse driving around town." With a black skull on the hood.
Yeah.
I mean, a silver skull on the hood.
That guy's up to no good.
Like, wow.
He's up to no good. He probably killed that old lady outside the yarn store last night. Jesus Christ.
Her body was found with a clear skull imprint right there on her gut.
Looks like we're after another sick bastard.
Another sick bastard. I knew we were in for trouble when that yarn store moved to town.
We said all those protests. We said not in our town. It'll bring riffraff.
Next thing you know, whores, pimps, drug
whores.
users.
I can't say whores without saying it like Danny DeVito. Whores. Yeah. Ever since I married you, whore of a mother. So good. Funny. So they're looking for that. Meanwhile, the wolf guy comes to. I just keep calling him Wolf Guy, because he doesn't have a name.
His character never gets a name.
No, because I like what he's credited as, which
like
is
Stressed Man or
Desperate Man. John Grease as Desperate Man. So he gets out of the ropes, which Dracula really did a piss poor job of tying.
Yeah, he apparently didn't swallow the sedative, so he spits them out, gets out of the ropes,
and he runs to a payphone because it's 1987. And he calls the police. He's like, "No, you gotta know. Look, there's trouble. It's gonna be, tonight is the night where
somehow Stressed or Desperate Man knows not only to call the police, he knows specifically what police officer to call because he tries to say, "I'm the guy that they shot last night. I'm the guy that escaped. That's the werewolf guy."
And
of course, Sean's dad's
"Have
like,
a nice night, wacko."
He's a whatever wacko. He goes, "You don't believe me?" He goes, "Yeah, but listen, they're going to come for your kid. They're going to kill your whole family."
Yeah.
So somehow, Desperate Guy knows to call specifically Sean's dad.
Yeah.
How?
How?
No, I don't. Doesn't matter.
No.
Movie.
No, this movie really is like, just, you got to stop wrestling with that stuff.
And he ends up changing, and it's a pretty good quick change.
But it is. They're doing the wipes around the phone booth, right, where it'll go dark, and so they'll use that to do like a dissolve and then
a transitional. Yeah,
it's nice. It's good. I do wish that we had Stephen Mock doing the Abbott and Costello thing where he goes, "Hey, get your dog off the phone." Guy calls me up, puts his goddamn dog on the phone. I always love that bit in that movie.
I don't remember them saying "goddamn dog" though. Did they say that in the Abbott and Costello movie?
Come on, buddy, put his goddamn dog on the phone.
This fuck on the phone. He put his goddamn dog up to the receiver.
Why? It is always funny to imagine the classic stars using foul language. It's the Dana Carvey thing about the idea of Jimmy. It's just funny if Jimmy Stewart go, "Well, then go fuck yourself."
It's true. Still one of my favorite bits of behind the scenes banter is you can YouTube it, but it's Martin Lewis doing the radio ads for the Caddy. It's clearly like 2:00 in the morning, and they're kind of drunk, but they're clearly loopy because they're probably up all night,
Yeah.
and they just start cussing, and it's hilarious.
Jesus Christ, Jerry.
So go see it, you piece of shit.
Yeah.
It's great.
I second that. That is very nice. So
I'm gonna take a werewolf break to get some water.
Take a brief werewolf break. All right.
Yeah, and it's an appropriate part.
Yeah.
Of the movie.
All right, so back from the werewolf break. Now we've got the kids out at the swamp. The swamp. This leads to a little jump scare here where the dog knocks Eugene's Twinkie into the water, and when he goes to retrieve it, Gillman pops up. Rah!
Never go for a Twinkie once it's in the water. Just let it go, man.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it is still wrapped. I will say he had not opened it yet.
That's true.
So
the Gillman does pop up.
Yeah.
And there he is. He's scary.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, he's scary. So they run away in terror from that. And meanwhile, this is where they've brought. Well, it's not just they're out doing that. Meanwhile, it's Rudy and it's not Eugene's sister. It's not the youngest kid who has the hot sister. It's the second leader. No, it is
the youngest kid.
No, it's the second leader because he brings her to the treehouse with Rudy here.
No, it's still the youngest kid.
Eugene? No. It's the other kid here. It has to be.
Nope, it's Eugene.
Patrick.
No.
Okay. I really think that's incorrect, but because he brings her up to when Rudy and they're trying to ask her if she's a virgin.
I remember that scene.
Yeah. Why would that be not his sister then?
I don't know.
And she doesn't have any, because then that would also be she's in the house with the father who did the mummy thing.
You know what? I'm walking off this podcast. I'm done.
So they bring her up there, and they're being very awkward about trying to ask her if she had sex.
Yes.
And finally, it is Rudy who says, "We just want to know if you've ever, been dorked."
Been dorked. Dork is the word that they're using so often, and me trying to cast my mind back to 1987. Of course, I know the word dork as slang for penis, but I'm trying to remember, was it really that big? As far as
it screams to me of it is a slang term, and it is the most juvenile appropriate, maybe.
I guess so.
Yeah. Shane Black had written "dicked," and they were like, "No, are you fucking kidding me?"
So what we'd really like to know is, have you been shafted?
Yeah. Anybody ever railed you?
Shane, you can't. No, Shane, you cannot. All right, I don't know. You come up with
this
something.
This has got to be one of the very few Shane Black PG-13 scripts. I think it's this and Last Action Hero, and that's it. I think everything else is definitely an R rating.
And I will say, in both cases, that one and this, with many years apart, that this is just not his wheelhouse. He tries, but there's always some. You feel something edgier under the surface that he's really watering himself down. It's
really
just not a natural
makes films for adults. He does not make kids movies, even though Last Action Hero,
though the concepts may be perfect for a kids movie. Last Action Hero is a perfect kids movie. Concept
that I loved.
So was this.
That's another childhood favorite of mine. I loved Last Action Hero, and I still
think it has a lot of cleverness in it.
The first half is a lot better than the second half. Is what I remember from watching it again as an adult. Is the stuff in the movie when the kids in the movie world is pretty funny. When the movie characters come into the real world, was my memory. That wasn't as good, but I still do enjoy it. But it doesn't fully work.
Nope.
So they bring her up there. Okay, then he goes, "Well, you are going to help us, or I'm going to release this photo of you." Did you look at the photo?
I thought about pausing and then thought that would be really creepy.
I did pause. I've seen the movie enough, but I paused.
But I read the trivia. Where
it's so dumb what it actually is.
It is her, but she's dressed, and so it's a PG-13 movie. So
it's her, and she's in like a black kind of lycra bodysuit.
Oh.
in the picture, and she's just standing. It just looks like they took a picture of her standing in front of the fake house.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they knew that it would be something that was going to flash by in 2 seconds.
But I
and
guess
they weren't.
I would have
printing of
said
people with
but I would have
Blu-ray
said,
players.
yeah, I'm watching the Blu-ray restoration and I'm pausing it. But still, you could have shot in a way where you just indicated the photo without ever seeing it, period.
Well, they do that for most of these scenes,
Yeah.
but there's 2 little glimpses here. There's a quick, and there's also, I think, when Frankenstein's monster's looking at it, kind of like, oh, and they're all trying to grab it.
Yeah.
You get a couple of quick glimpses, but I didn't pause it. But I did read.
I wasn't trying.
She's fully dressed.
I wasn't trying to be creepy because I knew it wasn't. Well, I knew it wasn't going to be like, oh man, they snuck some nudity in there. Although I'm sure Shane Black would have been
of age. She was like 20 something.
Once again, having seen Shane Black's other movies, I'm sure he would have been more than down for that. I mean, just look at the beginning of Lethal Weapon is just a topless woman leaping off a roof.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you have a problem with that?
No, I don't. I actually think it's a really effective and kind of dark. I mean, really dark beginning to that movie.
Shane Black does love that, like with Last Boy Scout, open with something shocking and visceral, and that's his thing. I'm like,
the beginning of The Nice Guys has nudity and gore also, where the topless woman crashes her car into the suburban house of the kid. Yeah. So yeah, he does love that.
Attention getting openings. Yeah,
it works, man. Especially, and also, you talk about in an era where he was selling these scripts for such high money, he was grabbing executives with those opening pages. I think a lot of it too, right?
Because a lot of readers, like as you find out in these books, a lot of readers for studios give up after 8 pages. They give you 8 pages.
And also, this movie is very true to everything I've ever heard about his scripts too, which is they always have to pull back from the insanity of the action. Like Lethal Weapon had 3 more giant set pieces. At a certain point, they're like dragging a fully finished house through the streets of LA and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Last Boy Scout ended with a gigantic boat chase and gunfight that's not there. You know, where you're going like, he always is just putting as much action on the page. And then they're like, we can't film this. This movie's going to be...
Give us a break, Shane.
Yeah. Because actually, I think some of the action that was in the Lethal Weapon script ends up in Lethal Weapon 2 just because it was left over. The thing of him pulling the house down was in the first Lethal Weapon. And then they're like, we got to put it in... Well, we can put it in 2, you know.
And he's like, you know what? Still a good idea.
Not bad. So let's see.
She's now on board.
Oh, this is...
Sister's on board.
Yeah, she's on board. And meanwhile, Dracula's dynamiting through a wall to get to this amulet. We'll just do some demo work today.
I guess that's how he decided to deal with the crucifixes and everything. Is like, well, if I blow them up, no big whoop.
Exactly. Yeah, not bad. Once again, I do kind of like him because this happens when the kids infiltrate the house because the Frankenstein monster knows where he is.
Yeah.
Because this brings parts of the roof down on the Frankenstein monster when he dynamites.
Oh, right. Because the kids have actually entered when this is happening.
Right. Because after the sister gets on board.
And when he dynamites, very conveniently, it only really brings down the foyer, the opening section where the Frankenstein monster was.
Right.
And it's touching because Horace, aka Fat Kid, doesn't want to give up on Frankenstein's monster, but Sean's like, we have work to do, and he sacrificed his life for us. He's like, but he's our friend. He's like, well, he's dead.
He would have wanted
just need to keep going. He would have wanted it this way.
Yeah. And this is, of course, where we get the werewolf popping up, and the probably the most iconic line from this movie.
Yes.
Which is kick him in the nards. Werewolf doesn't have nards. Kick him in the nards. And he does. And we get a werewolf taking a nut shot. I think that's a first for us on this show.
Yeah, and then him doubling over, and then Wolfman's got nards.
Wolfman's got nards.
That was a big laugh line in the theater.
Yeah.
I remember that from the day.
It's on T-shirts. It's really like I said, it is the line
it's
from
the
this
name
movie.
of the documentary about the making of the film.
Yep, which is on the Blu-ray. Yeah. Just seeing a werewolf go, oh!
Yeah. Again, this is further proof. I mean, this is aimed at kids. I'm
Well,
still enjoying the heck out of it.
Like I said,
but this is a kids movie.
I think you're seeing where the Black and Decker breakdown is, right? I think Decker, because Decker's the one who makes a PG-13 RoboCop. You know, like I think Decker's a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
And Black is the one going, yeah, and then they fucking stab the guy.
Yeah.
Once again, I relate to the Shane Black side of it, and I'm the guy who's like, they should also slit his throat.
Yeah, I'm sure Shane Black was the one going, no. That peasant girl from the beginning, she's done.
Yeah.
She's done.
That's it. She's
what
done,
if she came back? No, fuck her.
Now, hang on.
You cross Dracula, you end up in limbo. That's it.
Now,
Bing, bang, boom.
Now, hang on.
It's called consequences. It's called stakes.
What if a guy shot a bunch of people on a football field? It's for another project. Would you like that, Fred? I just love that, once again, when he got the Predator, he's like, who am I co-writing it with? My old pal Fred Decker. And even though they got screwed on that, I do like that still, even though Hollywood has kind of given up on Fred Decker, Shane Black has not.
It is good.
Yeah.
I'm always hoping that old friends that I know will call me up and go, hey, you want to work on a project together? Absolutely.
I just got the Alien franchise. Yeah, I'm just going, you got any Predator ideas? And I'm sure it was Fred Decker who goes, what if it's about an autistic kid in the suburbs who finds an alien helmet? Sure, as long as the Predator is tearing people to shreds, says Shane Black.
Okay, yeah.
I could deal with that. So yeah, they let's see. Where am I here? Oh yeah, they kick him in the nards. Then this is where they turn down each hallway as one of the brides. Everywhere they look, it's like, where are we gonna go? I don't know. That's a good shot.
It is. It's cheesy, but it's again, it's sort of like an old comedy bit. And also similar to Yorga in that first Yorga movie. They go down a hallway and someone's coming for them. Yeah. They go down another hallway. Here's another person. They go down another hallway, Dracula, and they're stuck.
I did think
and
about
the only
Yorga,
thing is the kid goes, well, it's an old mansion. It's got to have secret doors.
And it does, which is cute. Once again, it's that cute, quick kid movie
It's
logic.
a Scooby-Doo moment.
Yeah.
And they pull the statue's arm down, and that allows them to drop into the cellar.
The cellar, which is where Sean sees the amulet, and he grabs it, but then Dracula grabs him.
Uh-oh.
But, luckily, Fat Kid always got food.
Uh-huh. Fat Kid somehow, as he knows he's on his way to face the greatest monsters of all time, seems to have packed along a slice of pizza.
Hey, man, you got to have it. And it works out because the garlic on the pizza...
But he has a glandular condition, so he pulls out the piece of pizza,
by the way,
slams it against Dracula's face.
That's bullshit, right? He's just eating too much.
He's just eating too much.
Yeah.
And the garlic in the pizza burns Dracula.
Pretty good. And they show it. Like, you see the burn, and he's like, ah, and Duncan Regehr selling it.
Gross burn. It's a sick burn.
Yeah. It's a literal sick burn.
And Dracula looks angered that he would be.
It's good. It's a good Duncan Regehr. Like, you dare. Yeah. You dare. Love it.
But they do escape.
They do escape, and they're everyone, man, we get all the characters regrouping here and getting in the old German man's Jeep.
Yes.
But what's this in the middle of the road? It's a mummy.
Yeah, the first one they come across, now that they have fully reconvened as a monster squad, is the mummy, who, the mummy is not served well by this movie, but he's a good-looking mummy.
He is a good-looking
mummy. They
mummy.
got a skinny person. They got a gaunt person, and then wrap them well, and great face makeup. It doesn't look like a zip-up the back.
No, this is one of the best. Is this the best mummy we've seen, maybe?
It is. Other than Karloff, this is perhaps number 2.
Right, yeah, Karloff, yeah. I mean, I have a certain affection for the Christopher Lee makeup. It's definitely maybe...
Sure.
Overdone, and it's very much indicating that's Christopher Lee. But
I'm
looking
and
at
Christopher
this guy.
Lee is a very healthy 6'3"
guy.
Yeah,
he's a very imposing mummy.
Yeah, he's very physically imposing, just like he's a physically imposing Dracula. But I always want my mummy to look like a desiccated corpse. Yeah. So this one is better than Karloff because they get to an effect. They have the caved in nose, like a skullish face.
This guy was the seems like the Doug Jones of his day.
Oh, did you do a lot of creatures?
Yeah, this guy, Michael Reed McKay, who I know as Stryker's son from X-Men 2. Remember when he's in the wheelchair?
Oh, yeah.
That's this kid. Or the kid. That's this adult man. But
This kid.
he did this. He did Highway to Hell, Cast a Deadly Spell, Sleepwalkers.
Cast a Deadly Spell. Yeah.
7. You know, he was the sloth victim in 7. So once again, makeup. Lots of makeup stuff. They needed Insidious. He's one of the zombies in Army of the Dead. Just recently, he was doing monster work for Zack Snyder. By the way, that Academy Award fan favorite thing, Army of the Dead won the online for the Academy Award for fan favorite movie of the year.
Yeah. Well,
that's what happens when you just let Twitter vote.
That's what happens.
Yep.
And also all those Snyder Bros. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy that movie.
No. I
enjoyed it. That's the popular voted one.
Yeah.
Over Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Spider-Man came in 4th.
People idiots.
Spider-Man came in 4th from the Twitter.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Because just assholes on Twitter are voting.
John, now I'm very angry.
Yeah. So anyway, the mummy is defeated here by Rudy, who shoots through one of his wrappings, shoots it onto a tree.
Using a bow and arrow. He had stolen a bow and arrow earlier. So
I did like that scene too, yeah.
He says to Sean, he's like, get some of the slack from the... And so Sean grabs some of the wrappings, gives it to Rudy. Rudy attaches it to an arrow while the Jeep is moving, shoots the arrow with the wrapping at a tree, a stationary tree, which means while the mummy is hanging onto the Jeep, which is going 40 miles an hour, eventually he starts unwrapping because the wrap is stuck to that tree. And it's a pretty good effect, actually. It's really
I also love that they
good
put in...
because you're seeing an actual leg shape, but it's being unraveled and then dust just coming out.
I love the cut to the close-up of the mummy going, oh? Like,
there's one last shot when it's like up to his torso, and he's like, what? And then he's it. And then they just show a skull bouncing on the
It's a pretty good defeat of the mummy.
They defeated the mummy just by unwrapping him.
I like it. Also, Rudy continues to be an epic badass. He's very, very good at killing monsters.
I will say this. I mean, the actor is fine. It is more about the character's a badass. All these actors just seem to be a shade short of giving me awesome kid performances. He's okay. But the character of Rudy, I'm like, yeah.
But just like
teenage badass.
He's the one who's just putting these things away, man.
Yep. That's number one. He took down the mummy.
Mm-hmm. So now we got to get to the town square because that's where this is all going to wrap up. It is almost like, guys, we got to drive to the climax of this movie.
Well, what is it they say? We need someplace public. I'm not sure why they need someplace public. And then the old German man goes, town square, there's a church. And they're like, right. And monsters hate religious stuff, as one of them says.
Nice.
So they decide they're going to go to the church.
Yeah. And meanwhile, the cop dad and his partner are driving down the road when they spot the black hearse driving straight at them, and then they drive right through it.
We never get an explanation of this mysterious supernatural power, but still, it's cool.
It is cool, and I do like the
entire hearse becomes immaterial.
I do like the partner going, I ain't gonna say anything about that, and the cop being like, yeah, good call.
But the cop guy is running home.
Yes.
Because he did get the Wolfman's message about your family's in jeopardy. Mm-hmm. So they get to the family home. He gets out of the police car just in time for Dracula.
He's already blown up the treehouse.
Dracula's already there, right.
Yeah, because he blows up the treehouse, which is it's pretty cool to see Dracula walking away from an explosion.
Yes. He decides fuck you to the monster squad's necessary, so he blows up their treehouse, which is in the back of the house. And then he's in the front yard just kind of waiting on the dad to show up.
It's something I talked about back in the Hammer movies, and I'm glad it's brought back here, which is just shitty Dracula. Like, there's no part of his plan that's just this. This is just a middle finger to these kids that are pissing him off. And I love the Dracula who will do petty shit.
yeah.
Go, I'll take over the
just
world,
like,
but first, fuck you.
Just like maybe Lee's second one. I can never get the title straight, but where the whole thing is he ends up seducing the daughter of his nemesis just as a big fuck you.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't even want her. I'm just doing this to fuck with you, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was the Lee I was talking about, where he's just like, also, I did your daughter.
Yeah. Guess what?
Yeah.
She was good.
Yeah.
Also, I took pictures. You won't see me in them, but she is naked.
Yeah. All kinds of naked.
She's all kinds of naked. I will now list the kinds. One. And he's like, stop, Dracula. Just stop.
No. No boots. All right? First off, boots are gone. Socks, they're gone too. Are you sensing a trend?
Those lifts, because she's a shorty. Yeah, those came out too.
Yeah.
No lifts.
That's right. I pulled those out of the boots, threw them across the room.
But so Dracula is there when cop guy shows up.
Yeah. And he's got his gun. I love when he pulls his gun on him, and once again, Dracula's like...
Dracula already has a lit dynamite stick, if I remember correctly, because he was gonna, I guess, blow up the house.
Yeah.
But instead, what he does is he rolls it at or throws it into the window of the cop car.
Yeah, I think he throws it
where the partner still is.
Yeah. Once again,
and he can't get out.
No. He's trying to open the door. He's like, "Oh no!"
Cop dad got out, but the partner blows up, and you're thinking
once again, Shane Black, right? He's going, and then the partner blows up. Really?
In an Campbell movie, the partner would have also rolled out the other side and would have gotten up singed, but okay.
Once again, I'm just imagining
this guy's
these two sitting there, right? It's Black going like, "No, he's done. He's a crispy critter. It's over. It's over, man."
But it is effective as showing you that even in a PG-13 movie, there are stakes.
Well, I think that's the difference between the PG of the Goonies and the PG-13 that is this. This is more in line with something like Gremlins, which was also PG-13, I feel like. Where it's like...
Where there's a dark edge to it.
It's still aimed at a young audience, but, like, there is death and some violence, you know, like... and those are the ones that I especially, like, as I got older, were the ones I liked more of the kids' movies, where I'm like, oh, yeah, but, like, nobody fucking died in the Goonies, man.
It's true. And
and I love the Goonies.
The Goonies has tension, but it's still in a kids' movie fashion.
Yeah, nobody really is going to get it in the Goonies. Here, they drop a lot of bodies in this movie, actually.
Yeah.
But the movie doesn't linger on it. You know, I mean, that's what I mean. It's still meant to feel like it's a kids' movie, even though you're like, shit, they're killing people in this thing.
Yep. Partner is dead.
Yeah.
And now the cop is like, stay away from my family and all that. And Dracula's like, no.
Yeah.
And fuck you.
Steve Mock empties his gun into him to no effect, of course. Gotta have it.
Because it's Dracula.
Gotta have it. And once again,
Dracula. I'm sure Steve Black was thinking like, then the mom comes out of the front of the house and she's bloody because the bullets hit her. And then Fred Decker's like, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But she does run out
and
afterwards,
the music goes,
but she's okay. Yeah, she's like, all right, I'll give you that one. All right.
Yeah, all right, fine. The mother lives, whatever. How many people can I kill in this movie, Fred? Yeah, no effect. So Dracula turns into a bat and flies off. And I do like the mother's like, oh my God, what happened? The treehouse blew up. Is your partner dead? He's like, no time, God damn it. He still
really does kind of like go, yeah, but I got a book.
Yeah, we gotta get to the... Like, he's still, even here, he's still like, I can't tell you, woman. God!
Well, she does, they do hug. There's the, like, take care of yourself moment, but he is all business.
Yeah.
And I do like that she ran out in time to see the transformation. Does mean that now all the adults are on board. Yes. They know all this is real, even the mom. And I did like that this transformation is another throwback. They do the animated shadow of a real person becoming an animated bat. They do it as a shadow,
which is nice. It's more, it's less goofy and cooler here.
Well, it's better done because there was a studio with money behind it, and it looks good.
It does look good. And so he flies off. Meanwhile, they're starting to have the teenage sister read from the diary, and this is when the
Right.
brides roll up. And Rudy just goes out there like, I got this.
Well, this is cool. I do like that. The teenage girl is trying her best. I like that. It's all the threads are coming together because a scary German guy is he's reciting it with her, correcting her pronunciation. She's going through the whole thing. And then Rudy's like, "You guys keep going.
Yeah.
I got this." And he goes out there,
and he's got his backpack full of these big stakes.
Yeah, they're not arrows. These are his stakes. They are bigger than arrows. They are smaller than like an actual garden stake.
Right.
But it's still a clunky thing to be putting on a bow. It's pretty
so
big.
Cool though.
And he fires it, and he gets one right off the bat.
He drops one right away.
He drops one right away, which means he's a good archer.
Well, we saw that earlier when he shot the mummy thing too under the tree, right? Like, Jesus Christ, this guy is unstoppable.
Yeah, you would think, like, why would he have to steal a bow and arrow? If he's this good, that guy has a bow and arrow in his bedroom.
And he's going to load. Yeah, there should have been some drop thing about when they have him being good at archery, but he goes to load up another one, but the bride gets to him first, and she grabs onto him. But he just plunges that thing right in her chest, man.
He just is like, okay, I can't fire it. She's already on me, so he just powers it through her
Which
chest.
is cool about these stakes, the idea that you can put it in a bow and fire from a distance, or if they're on you, it's still just a stake to jam into them. Pretty good, man.
Yep, he takes down 2 of the brides.
I love it.
The third is never addressed, by the way. I saw that in the trivia. It was like,
Pantry
a lot
girl.
of fans notice that the third bride is never addressed. Did she escape?
I love the idea that after she saw this, we'd see her run off in the background. Oh, fuck
She's
this.
like, you know what? No, I'm good. I'm good.
So meanwhile, though, Dracula's coming as a bat, but Stephen Mock rolls in and shoots the bat out of the sky, man.
Yeah, cop dad comes out and shoots the bat that is Dracula.
Kablamo!
Maybe the reason that it affects him is, doesn't he end up in the church's belfry?
Yes.
Technically, he's in the church.
That's true. He gets shot into the church. The bullet hits him,
into
and
the
he's
bell tower,
launched
into the belfry.
exactly. Right, exactly.
He is literally a bat in the belfry.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because then when they go inside, really cool. Dracula in like part bat, part man transition.
This is clearly Stan Winston going, dude, American Werewolf was awesome. They did a great job, so I'm going to copy that, because this is very much Duncan Rigger's actual head, but then this elongated man bat body. It's kind of like Man Bat.
Little Man Batty, yeah.
Batman comics. So he is like caught in between and he's kind of lolling on the ground like he's wounded or whatever. So they do rush up there trying to finish him off, but Wolfman's also there.
Oh, Stephen Mock does try to get a one-liner in here, though. When he lights the dynamite and he's going to throw it down at half-bat Dracula, he's like, suck on this, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, man. Nice. Shane Black
I
definitely
thought it was
wrote
inappropriate that the next 4 minutes is Duncan Rigger literally sucking on dynamite. I thought,
suck it.
Don't take it literal,
you son of a
Dracula.
Bitch. Okay.
All right. I don't want to. It's shameful, but
this is pretty cool. I do
no.
like, because he and the werewolf struggle, and Mock is able to get the dynamite into the werewolf's pants and then kick him out the window of the church.
Yeah,
not bad.
It's a pretty good action beat where he shoves lit dynamite down a werewolf's pants, kicks him out of a window just in time for the dynamite to go off and blow the Wolfman into pieces.
You see that piece of him explode. This is where I'm going like, yes, this is the Shane Black stuff, because that would be in a Lethal Weapon movie.
You're sitting there going, I feel comfortable now.
Yeah, this is it, man.
I feel at home.
When we're blowing this werewolf to pieces as he falls, I love it. And then when the werewolf puts itself back together.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's cool too.
Oh, yeah, because as they had already stated, it has to be silver bullets.
Yep.
So these blown apart pieces start coming together, like wobbling towards each other.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. And then suddenly he's up on his feet and howling at the moon yet again.
Absolutely. And meanwhile, the teen sister does finish reading from the diary with the help of the old man, but nothing happens.
Yeah, it's great because the teen sister finishes and she goes, great, I did it. Like, she's really happy. And they're like, one of the kids goes, where's Limbo? Shouldn't Limbo be here?
Yeah. It's just like, wait, you aren't a virgin, are you? It's like, and it's just like she had sex with somebody, but that doesn't count because
she goes, well, there was Steve, but he doesn't count.
Yeah.
It's a good joke.
It's a good.
You know that they're sitting there going, we set that up and we drove it home.
It's
There's
good.
the
It's
joke.
solid. That is solid.
And they're like, well, we're fucked out of luck because there's no more virgins around.
They go,
Virgin
wait a
girls.
minute.
And like, what about Phoebe?
Yeah, there you go. And he's like, oh yes. So they're gonna have her. But meanwhile, finally to the monster rally, we get our Gill man pops up out of the sewer here.
Yep.
Yeah, Fat Kid is running away from him.
Fat Kid is first cowardly, even though he has picked up a cool ass rifle, but he
picks up a shotgun with like the modern folding stock.
Yeah,
which is
and
cool.
he's still trying to escape. He's trying to get into the newsstand, which I thought this is great. This is, who knows? It's close to midnight on some night of the week, and the newsstand, which
Jason
is
Hervey and his buddy.
Yeah, the newsstand is open, but the sign says closed.
Yeah.
But it's lit inside, and his two bullies, who are children, seem to be left alone in a business, in a retail establishment after closing.
You kids stay here.
Because they see Fat Kid in trouble with Gilman coming, and he's like, "Open the door, you idiots!"
Like,
it's like, "Let me in," and they're like, "No," they're too scared.
And
so eventually, Horace just turns around and is like, I got to do it.
Yeah, and then this is where Shane Black says, "Yeah, I'm gonna have a kid kill something with a shotgun."
It's one shot, which again doesn't mean. I mean, it makes it look like Gilman is an easy takeout, just like the Mummy. All you gotta do is unravel him. Mm-hmm. But here, one shotgun blast to the chest. Yeah. Gilman's down.
He's done. And then
he is done.
Wow, Fat Kid. And then, my name is Horace. And you're like,
yes,
oh,
the bullies open the door at this point and go, "That was awesome. They are now here. You're cool, Fat Kid." He goes, "The name is Horace," and that's great. Come on, every awkward fat kid in the audience is like, yeah, that's me.
Fuck yeah, I'd pick up a shotgun.
If it came down to it, I would blow away a Gilman.
Oh, anytime, come on.
Anytime, even though I have a glandular condition.
But it's really a glandular condition, so.
It's just because I eat too much.
I put too much food in my glands.
That's the glandular condition.
So that he's done. Dracula now. This is where we get Dracula wrecking cops, which I could have watched 10 minutes of this.
Yeah, honestly, it's similar to just like Rogue One finally gave us Darth Vader walking through a hallway and decimating
the only thing
rebel soldiers.
And I don't want to take away from how awesome this is, but it is the kids movie thing of he is not tearing anyone's throats out or, he's just knocking them away. He turns a guy's wrist. It's still cool. He's still like overpowering everyone. But like the Dracula I know would have been killing
you wanted more throat ribs. You say that with every movie.
I do always. I mean, it's why I bring up Roadhouse so much.
Yeah. Please, more throat rips.
Oh, God.
Only MacGruber has given you enough throat rips.
That's why it's the only movie I watch. I gotta go for that turkey. Go on, get your turkey. The throat lozenges. You're gonna want to take the whole box. It's the best. I love that movie so much.
Okay.
So the old okay. Here's the thing. Dracula walks up to Phoebe and the old German man, and he goes, "Keep reading." And then the German man hits him with some sort of beam of light from his hand. What is that? Is it the amulet itself?
Yeah, I guess so.
It must be. It happened so quick that I was taken aback. As many times as I've seen this, I was still like, whoa, what?
Yeah, we've cut back through all these killings and so forth to the German man, because Phoebe can't read, much less read German, so she is clearly just doing it by sound.
Yeah.
So German man is saying it, she says it back. She's doing a good job for 5-year-old, actually, doing all the German weird.
Phoebe, quietly the hero of the movie.
She is, actually. She saves the day. Way to go, Phoebe. But yeah, so he's trying to protect her, and I don't know how that works with the amulet. It's like maybe it just knows evil's near, and
Or it's partially powered from some of the readings.
partially from some of the
I don't know. I
spell.
mean, we need to knock him back, but then of course Dracula does get up from that, grabs Phoebe, and this is where he grabs Phoebe. Give me that.
This
you
is
bitch.
a grown man. This is a grown man as Dracula lifting a 5-year-old girl and saying, so I can't remember the exact line,
It's
but he calls
something
her
like
a bitch.
"Give me the amulet." I think isn't it something like
Or
"Give me the
something
amulet, you
like that,
bitch?"
or
You bitch.
yeah, and you're like, wow.
I kind of
Wow.
love it. I kind of love it.
I mean, I kind of love it because again, it's just Dracula ain't got no time for anybody.
Well, it doesn't matter that it's a kid. It's a thing standing in his way, so it's a bitch.
It's a bitch, and I just was like, I hope that was ADR. I feel terrible for this little girl. Also, in the trivia, it was stated that Tom Noonan, the very much method actor he was,
Yeah.
only hung out with the kids in the makeup,
Yep.
the Frankenstein makeup.
That
And
sounds like
Duncan
him.
Regehr, not quite as hardcore, but the one thing he did keep from her
Yeah.
was the day they shot this scene
Yeah.
where he picks her up and is threatening her life.
Yeah.
Was the first time he had the contacts, the Dracula contacts, and the fangs in.
Yeah.
So when he does the scary look with the blood red eyes and the
Yeah.
fangs and calls her a bitch, she had never seen him
Yeah.
like that before, even though she liked him. Everyone on set got along.
Yeah,
And so
Duncan
the
Regehr's a
scream,
charmer. Yeah.
her scream in that scene is real
Yeah.
because he scared her badly,
Yeah.
and she ended up in therapy for years.
Yeah, that's what I heard. No, if Shane Black's on set going, you're going to call that little girl a bitch because that's what it says.
Yeah. But I feel really bad about
No, but you're Dracula, and Dracula doesn't feel bad. He thinks she's a bitch.
this. It's like, Duncan, you feel bad about that. I get that.
Yeah.
But you're not Duncan right now. You know who you are? Count fucking Dracula.
Decker's like, this is why we don't let Shane on set. Jesus Christ. No, Shane was probably out shooting Predator. Out in the jungles versus the Predator, which is around once again. It's all the same time. It's like this.
Yeah, it's pretty
Lethal
cool.
Weapon
He's
and
probably
Predator.
sitting there like getting phone calls from Fred, like, how's it going on Monster Squad? Great. And then he's like, well, Shane, how's you hear anything on Lethal Weapon? Oh, it's a go. It's still in the works. How's the jungle? Oh, it's fine.
Yeah.
How's Arnold?
Yeah.
It's like you're appearing in Predator.
Yeah.
Your movie Monster Squad's getting made, and Lethal Weapon is days away from starting.
And of course, we know he was only in Predator because John McTiernan wanted him to do rewrites, and the studio wouldn't hire him as a writer. So he goes, well, I'll just hire him as an actor, and he can punch up dialogue while he's out here.
It worked.
It did work. That movie's great. So yeah. Oh, so yeah, he's and then of course the hand on Dracula, and it's the Frankenstein monster alive, and he's not having this shit, man.
No one is surprised that this late turn happens, but it's still welcome.
Yeah.
Frankenstein's monster was not killed when all the stuff caved
This
in
is a
on
total,
him. He
like,
rises.
This is a total get the audience applauding moment, right? in the
Yes,
movie.
he's
Yeah.
back. He's protecting Phoebe because Phoebe is his friend. And
He lifts
Frankenstein's
this-
monster and Dracula fighting. That's all I
And
want
when
in
he
my
lifts
life.
him up and throws him onto the wrought iron fence and impales him.
Yes, throws him onto the wrought iron
it.
fence of the church and then impales him. Also, we missed the resurrected werewolf. And then Rudy getting him finally with the silver bullet.
Where was that? Yeah, that's in here too.
It's all in this scene. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's all the finale.
Yeah, I have it in here somewhere, but it's all.
But basically, at some point, the resurrected werewolf comes for them, and Rudy pulls his pistol, which has the silver bullet in it.
No. He grabs one of the
Oh,
cops'
he grabs
guns,
a cop's
dumps the
gun,
bullets that
empties
are
it,
in it out, and puts
puts the silver bullet in it, then puts it right in the Wolfman's chest, kills
Jesus
him.
Christ! Also, an expert shot with a pistol too.
Apparently so.
And then
Rudy-
he's just like, "Told you, silver bullets were the only way to kill."
Yeah,
them."
he goes, told you there was only one way to kill a werewolf. And
You're
then
like,
he changes
"Oh."
back into the desperate man.
Who says thank you as he dies.
Yeah, this is
Dark.
an interesting take too, because that is a standard, like with Larry Talbot, like thank you, thank God. But the way Grease delivers it is like he goes, "Thank you," like it's a question and dies.
Yeah.
I was like, that's an interesting take. He's peaceful, but he's like, thank you, I
guess.
he does it as a question.
I guess this was the only way this was gonna go. So
I'd rather, I guess, be dead than a flesh-eating werewolf.
He hadn't yet gotten to the full suicidal nature of like a Lon Chaney Jr., but he's like, now that I think about it logically, this is probably for the best.
I'll take it. I'll take it. And then he dies.
So the portal opens. People are being dragged into it, and Dracula, who's being pulled into it, does grab Sean to pull him in with him.
Yeah.
Sean does get
all right, if I'm going to limbo, I'm going to take this child with me.
Sean does get his one action beat if he does grab something and stake Dracula. Not killing him, but just getting him, to release him.
Yeah, that's true.
And then I do like Van Helsing from Limbo grabbing Dracula and being like, "You're coming with me, asshole."
Again, this is all pure turn off your brain and go back to being a kid reading comics.
Yeah.
Van Helsing coming out of limbo and then grappling with his greatest nemesis as they go back to limbo for eternity, probably fighting for eternity.
I love it.
I love it.
It's so good.
And Van Helsing still somehow, without knowledge of our world, knows that the kid somehow is responsible. So he gives him a thumbs up, like, way to go, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dracula and Van Helsing disappear. Sadly, Frankenstein's monster is getting pulled as well. And then your heart breaks because the little girl, Phoebe's like, don't go.
Yeah.
Don't go.
But the Frankenstein monster does know it's right that he should go. He's going like, But and as he's going and he's waving bye.
And her stuffed animal, which she had introduced him to, which was called Scraps.
Yeah.
The stuffed animal, like it's a consolation gift.
Yeah.
It also tumbles into limbo, and Frankenstein's monster clutches it and pulls it to his chest.
Yeah.
Like, I'll always have something to remember Phoebe by, and then he goes into limbo.
Yeah.
It's touching.
It's nice.
Touching.
It's a nice
The little girl cries, but it's
Yeah.
good. And in my version, around this time, the army shows up. I'm sure they did in your version too.
Yes, they did. Yeah. The army shows up.
We missed that beat.
Because Eugene wrote a note to the army.
Eugene wrote a note to the army, and that's
like
what's so
crayon
funny is that
on kid-lined paper,
Yeah, this big kid tablet paper, and he wrote, "Hey, army guys, monsters are real, and they're taking over my town, Eugene, or like, come help."
Yeah,
and there's no follow up to that.
The full force of the U.S. military, though, shows up.
But the U.S. military does show up, and they're kind of cartoonish, and there's a sergeant, and everything has gone back to normal. Limbo's closed now.
Yeah.
Everything's trashed.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Where's Eugene?
Yeah.
Where are these monsters?"
We got
and
a note
going,
from Eugene.
And Sean comes and says, "We took care of him." And he goes, "And who are you?" And he pulls out the little business card.
It's good, man. The rap is terrible, but this ending is great with the kid just being
the ending's great. And are you kidding?
Squad.
I was totally flashing back when they showed them making the business cards
to your vampire hunter business.
My Brendan D. Jones vampire hunter business card. But so they it was during this that they cut over to the group standing on the church steps. And Rudy puts his arm around the blonde teenage girl, and she goes, "Ugh."
Yeah.
So that was in my version. And then basically, anyway, Sean gives him the business card, and the army guy looks at it and says Monster Squad. And it's like, we're the Monster Squad.
Because they're the Monster Squad, and they're here to say
terrible rap.
That the Dracula is...
Yeah, it's all like, everybody's coming to their town. It's Frankenstein, Dracula, and the Wolfman, too. It's just all this is like, stop. This
He's
is
looking
awful.
for an ancient amulet. Like, they do get amulet in there at one point.
They do the whole plot.
Yeah, and you're just
Van Helsing's amulet and his diary ended up in the hands of a scary German man. And you're like, what the fuck are you talking?
Not since the Dan Aykroyd Dragnet movie have I heard a rap this bad.
Well,
my name's Friday.
A slight step up would be Bobby Brown's song from Ghostbusters 2, which I, of course,
I actually don't mind.
Spirit. People hear it. Some people fear it. Some people just don't go near it. As sure as I'm me and the sky is blue, the Ghostbusters are back and all brand new.
Yeah. That one I remember, though, being a kid and being like, oh, yeah.
Well,
Ghostbusters
actually,
are back.
The song slaps, as they say, even if the rap is dumb.
Yes.
And this has no good music and terrible, terrible lyrics that are just telling you the plot of the movie you just watched.
because they're a bunch of kids and some monsters too, and they're gonna go. And it's like, oh, Jesus.
They hang out in the treehouse reading comics and talking about monsters. Like, stop.
It's so bad.
Sean's mom and dad are having problems. Perhaps the marriage counselor will help them out.
If only they could get to the counselor, then they could. Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. But the movie, so fun. Like we said, it's not a great movie, but it's a very fun movie.
This is not even though we recommended it to Elliot last week, this is a movie that they would watch and probably they would see the charm in it.
Yeah. But
this is not one of the highs. This is not a Lost Boys or a Fright Night.
No,
this is not
as good as
anywhere near an American Werewolf.
When
or
I was
like
10, this movie really hit me, and I still kind of watch it through that lens, you know?
There are comedies and parodies of horror movies that get close to being a better version of the characters than some of the serious ones. I know that you more than I, but still, I appreciate Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
It's kind of similar to this. It really does capture the ideal of what these characters should be. Like, they are...
And put comedy around them.
And that's the thing. Like this and like that, the monsters are serious.
Yes.
The monsters are a real threat.
Yeah. And obviously Young Frankenstein we talk about a lot.
Yeah.
There are movies where it's like, oh, it's weird that the comedians or the people parodying it clearly have a greater love and understanding of why these characters are cool.
Young Frankenstein is the third best Frankenstein movie after The Two Whales, I think, without question.
Yes. I don't think anything we were going to watch is going to disprove that. Though Frankenstein Created Woman has got to be number 5. No,
I thought you were going to say Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell. Come on.
No.
Those Cushing movies, they do start really well and then they burn out.
Well, that's
quick.
True of all the Hammer series.
Yeah, everything starts.
Though I still love
some of Universal too.
I love some of that batshit Dracula in the 70s. Those last 3 movies.
They're
just. So
I agree.
weird.
I think I was really giving those a thumbs up when we were doing those. The Dracula and the 7, like Satanic Rites of Dracula, when you got the guys in the vest with machine guns and stuff.
When he's essentially Fu Manchu or some or Lex Luthor. I love that.
I'm here for it, man.
But anyway, so this one I do love. I don't quite. Again, I wish I had been younger when it came out.
Yeah, I think that
because I was
helps.
already sitting there going, it's too slight. For kids, but they look great. Stan Winston did a great job.
No, it's
the actors did a great job.
It's a lot of fun, and it's a lot better than what we're gonna watch next week. I think I haven't actually seen next week's movie, which is The Howling 3.
Shit, man!
I don't think there's a subtitle. I think it's just called The Howling 3.
No, isn't this the Marsupials?
It is the Marsupials. It is the Marsupials one, but I don't think it's actually called that. I think it's just called The Howling.
I have seen it called Howling 3: The Marsupials.
Oh, okay, well,
but that might be a release title from somewhere else in the world.
Yeah, that could be,
or maybe a video title. But I swear to God, I remember seeing it listed as Howling 3: The Marsupials.
Well, this is the marsupial one. So we're back with this director who directed the much beloved Howling 2. Your sister is a werewolf. Your sister's a werewolf.
I do like it done that way, as if someone came up to you at a party letting you know. It's like someone needing to tell you that your grandmother called because she's on her deathbed or something, but you're at a party, and so they do it right in your ear. It's your sister's a werewolf.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know this is the wrong, but your sister's a werewolf.
Yeah, it's well, it goes back to, I love the
hold my drink
when you see the clip from the serious movie that Tracy made on 30 Rock.
Yes,
hard to watch. And there's just the scene where he's sitting there talking. He has whatever monologue, and then a cop just peeks in and goes, "Your mother exploded." And it's just that delivery that I love. So yeah,
I'm hoping for something that funny. Howling 3.
Howling 3, which I do think is attempting to have more of a comedic bent, somewhat.
Actually, I think this is based on having not seen it.
Yeah, I've never seen this. Yeah,
but what I've heard is I think this one seemed to have almost been an unrelated script and actually is more serious. But they went ahead and put Howling 3 on it. So I think this one is actually trying to be more of a horror film I think.
Yes. Oh,
With the Australian setting.
Oh,
and
they're okay. Also known as the Marsupials, the Howling 3, reverse of the subtitle.
Okay,
but that's
maybe
only
that's
on later video releases. It was released originally as the Howling.
Well, we're gonna
3.
find out how funny or serious it is next week.
Sake, for God's sakes, man. Yeah. Anyway, next week on the show, Howling 3. But that is going to do it for this week's episode of Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters. I'm John Campbell.
I'm Brendan Jones.
And remember, there are such things as monsters.
And then John Campbell said there were such things as monsters. Brendan sat back in his chair. Things went there, and then they did. And they turned off the podcast so you could go away. Doop, 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 doop.